Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto finds an old scroll that gives him just what he needed. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. He hated how his life had turned out. He was now 20 and had grown up, resenting everything and everybody in that kami-forsaken village. Naruto had brought Sasuke back, defeated Akatsuki and got rid of Pain and Obito. Naruto did it. But it was like no one even acknowledged it, and when he had gone out the day after their return, everyone was fawning over Sasuke like he had never deserted Konoha and had nearly been used to destroy the village. And that started Naruto's countdown. Every day that passed by, it was like how he was when he was younger. Everyone hated him for being the bearer of a creature of power that nearly destroyed their city. And no matter how hard he did his best, no one would acknowledge him of his good deeds. No one except the Hokage. Here is in Sarutobi, the sandaime of Konohagakure of the Fire Country. But when he had died and was replaced by his godmother, Tsunade, Naruto knew it wasn't the same. Together with Jiraiya, both legendary Sanins tried their best to be like the sandaime when it came to Naruto. But after a while, it was Naruto who began to slip further and further away from them. Tsunade had asked him to organize the private library of the Hokage. It was normally only for the Hokages, but since Naruto was going to be the Rakudame soon, Tsunade thought that it would be the same thing, so she asked him. If only she knew how grave of a mistake it was. Naruto did as he was told. He began to arrange and organize the scrolls that were hidden inside the private library. And as he was going about his task, one particular scroll caught his attention. It was black and was tied with a thick red string. And upon touching it, the scroll itself moved and unraveled before Naruto. He wanted to scream and run out, but for some reason he stayed in place. As the scroll hovered in front of him, Naruto saw what was written inside. A time-traveling jutsu. Naruto couldn't take his eyes off the scroll. And without hesitation he took the scroll, placed it inside his clothing, brought out the feather duster he was carrying, and pretended to be done for the day. He coughed as he came out, glaring at the smirking Hokage. If I die due to lack of oxygen, I will find ways to come back and haunt you, Bachan. Naruto told her as he placed down the duster and sighed. I hope not. Then it would be impossible to get rid of you from this office, and you'd remind me every day. Ugh. Tsunade said as she groaned. After a few more exchange of words, Naruto left the office and made his way back home. However, luck was not on his side. He just had to run into Sasuke who was being followed by Ino and Sakura. Naruto wanted to kill them all, and Kyuubi was already laughing inside him. Well, if you need any chakra, I'd be willing to help you. As long as you take out the pig and forehead too. Kyuubi told Naruto, who smirked and chuckled. Without even a greeting, Naruto walked past the three of them who stared in shock at him. No insult. No trying to agitate Sasuke. No nothing. Naruto was smirking and Kyuubi laughed harder. It didn't take long for them to reach Naruto's apartment, and with the strongest locking seals he knew, he locked all doors and windows of his apartment. He also placed a concealment seal so that whoever was outside wouldn't see that Naruto was actually inside his place. I have got to say, those are the most complicated and most elaborate combination of hand seals I have ever seen. Kyuubi commented after Naruto placed down the scroll and pinched the bridge of his nose. Is it doable? Naruto asked. It is. However, I have no doubt that it will take a lot of both our energy and chakra to make it work. But you will be able to do it. Kyuubi answered and Naruto nodded. Well, no point in knowing this jutsu and not doing it right. Besides, if we go back, we might be able to change how things went once before. Naruto proposed and the Kyuubi listened. True. If you go back and retain all your knowledge, you'd be able to use it against these people who had treated you like you were not the one bearing the biggest burden ever. You are not a burden, Kyuubi-san. Yes, it had been hard growing up because they all know that you rest inside me, but it was their choice to see me as nothing but the prison cell that held you, the power that had nearly destroyed this village. Even if it was my father who had done it, the people ought to have handled it better. Naruto said and Kyuubi was silent. None of them spoke for a long while until Kyuubi sighed. If you want to go back, I will help you this time. I'll make sure everything will be different for you and me. Kyuubi promised, which made Naruto smile a bit and stood up. Alright then, we'll do this before the clock sticks midnight. Naruto stated and the Kyuubi inside nodded. He needed to prepare a few things, and Naruto had a feeling that if he returned to the past and would be back to his younger self, but with the knowledge he had at the present, he would be changing everything that happened and make sure that he and Kyuubi would never get hurt. Ever again. The hours went by and a minute before midnight, Naruto was in the middle of his living room, kneeling in front of the open scroll. He took a deep breath and began to do the hand seals as instructed by the scroll. And upon the last one, Naruto saw a flash of pure white light before darkness engulfed him. He didn't know how long he was unconscious, but Naruto was sure that he had heard a familiar voice call out his name. Naruto, Naruto, Naruto. Wake up Gaki. Instantly, Naruto bolted upright and was in defensive mode. When he saw that there wasn't an enemy that would attack him, he relaxed a little. You're finally awake. I thought you'd never wake up. Maybe I shouldn't have given you those memories in one go. Kyuubi buttered, which made Naruto raise a brow. What memories are you, ow? Naruto cried out in pain as he curled up in his floor, clutching his head. The pain itself was horrible. It was like his brain was being beaten even when it was heaving heavily. Those memories. I thought it would have been best if you were asleep when I gave them to you, so that you won't feel the entire pain until every piece of memory settled down in that brain of yours. Kyuubi explained as Naruto tried to find ways to ease the pain he was feeling. It was worse than his fight with Obito and that damn Mangekyo Sharingan. After nearly half an hour, the pain was now barely there and Naruto was able to sit up once more. Whoa, these memories, does this mean that you also changed my body and now I'm able to do all these jutsus? Naruto asked. Yes. However, in order for you to maintain them, you have to exercise every day. Train with your clones and keep on moving and get stronger. You still have the skills you learned when you were growing up. The skills I gave you are like added bonus. Your chakra reserves are the same as when you were 20 and as you grow again, you'll be twice as strong now as you were before you came back here. Kyuubi explained and Naruto nodded. He slowly stood up and looked down on himself. He was wearing his orange shorts and white tee. Naruto knew instantly that he was back to his 6-year-old self once more. He looked around his apartment and smiled a bit. It was the same apartment he had when he was younger. And since he now had time, the first thing he needed to do was get rid of the Uchihas that made his life a living hell. And Naruto knew exactly whom he wanted to get rid of first. Naruto quickly stripped down and rummaged through his closet for something less eye-catching to wear. Luckily, he found a pair of black shorts and a black shirt. He then changed his hair and eye color to black to make sure that no one would know who he was, just in case someone was able to see him enter and or leave the Uchiha compound. He looked up at the time on the wall clock over his bed and saw that it was midnight. By now, everyone else was in bed and sleeping soundly. With a dozen kunai and shurikens in his hip pouches, Naruto jumped out his window and placed a genjutsu that showed that he was sleeping soundly in his bed. Skillfully jumping over the roofs, he was now on top of the main house of the head of the Uchiha clan. And as far as Naruto knew, Itachi was probably with Shisui and doing Anbu work. It did surprise Naruto when he had found out that Itachi was in Anbu and that the massacre was planned by the council along with the Sandaime to stop the Uchihas from revolting against the Hokage. With his new skill, Zetsu, Naruto hid his aura inside his body and tiptoed into the house and made his way to Sasuke's bedroom. He didn't want to have to kill him yet since Sasuke had not done anything yet, so Naruto was going to spare him, Itachi, and Shisui from death. Naruto knew that Madara was inside the main household as well under guise that he couldn't remember who, but he was sure the bastard was there. He found Sasuke's bedroom without problem, and with the newly acquired strength from Kyuubi, Naruto took Sasuke into his arms and jumped out the window. He placed the sleeping boy near the front of the gates and placed a warming seal to make sure that Sasuke didn't wake up from the coldness of the night. Naruto then turned back to the house and smirked. The air was damp, which meant that there were small water particles in the air at that very moment. With a few hand seals, a crystal dome appeared over the huge main house. And with another set of hand seals, the house burst into flames. Without wasting another moment, he jumped out the compound and was watching from a safe distance. He could hear the screams of the people who were trying to get out of the crystal dome. That dome won't crack, right? Not a chance. Kyuubi replied, which made Naruto smirk and bask in the screams of his first kill in this time. Not a minute later, he could see Anbu ninjas, Jounins and the Sandaime watch in horror as the main house of the Uchiha clan and the members of the said clan perish in the fire. Has anyone tried to break that dome yet? The Hokage yelled out. We have been trying, Hokage-sama. But the dome won't break. 6 of us tried to break it together, but it didn't even crack, said Kakashi behind his dog mask. Itachi and Shisui were on their knees as they watched their clan members pound on the dome, wanting to get out but couldn't. There was nothing they could do but watch as the flames swallowed everything and everyone inside. Hokage-sama. We found the youngest Uchiha, yelled Kurenai as she ran behind Asuma and Guy, who was carrying the sleeping boy. Itachi instantly stood up and went to grab his brother, who had woken up in fright. Nai-san. What's wrong? What's going on? Sasuke asked in a frightened tone as he saw a lot of people around him. As he finally noticed the large light from behind his brother, with wide eyes, Sasuke saw his mother and father burned to death as then slowly fell against the glass and on the ground. Shisui moved to block Sasuke from the rest of the disaster, while Itachi moved to make sure his brother was facing the gates and not the burning house. Itachi didn't know how Sasuke got out, but he was glad that his brother was alive. Before anyone would say anything, the flames inside the dome ceased and the dome itself shattered into pieces, letting out a thick black smoke up into the night sky. The smell of burnt wood, paper and bodies mingled in the morning air. Saratobi suddenly felt so old as he heaved a heavy breath. Everyone proceed to my office immediately. He ordered and everyone nodded. No one saw the culprit smirking and enjoying his victory a few blocks away, standing on top of an electricity pole before disappearing in the dead of night. At the Hokage's office, the room was filled with tension, as no one dared to speak to break the silence that had engulfed everyone when the last person had closed the door to the office. "Someone tell me something." Saratobi spoke, his tone was laced with worry. "Okage-sama, the only thing we knew was as Shishui and I were returning home after our checkup round of the village, the main house was already eaten in flames. Then you and everyone else arrived." Itachi said and got a nod of acknowledgement. "Alright, what else do we know about the situation?" The Hokage asked once more. Whoever it was had placed a very strong crystal dome and wouldn't break even with 6 Anbu trying to break the dome together. It was an advanced chakra nature transformation that involved crystal style and fire style. Anko gave the details and everyone's eyes widened in shock. "Do we know anyone who can do this crystal style with fire style?" Saratobi asked as he leaned forward a bit. Everyone shook their heads. Another thing though, whoever it was made sure that Sasuke was safely out the house before burning down the building and everyone in it. Shishui pointed out and everyone nodded. Everyone was quiet again and looked around at the other who were in the room. "I want every Anbu, Jounin, and Chunin alert until we solve this case. If anyone is seen acting differently, they will be watched. No one murders an entire clan not feel either remorseful or victorious. I want eyes and ears on everyone and everything. Am I understood?" he asked. "Yes, sir." Everyone replied at the same time. Dismissed except for the 3 Uchihas. Everyone left the room as quickly as they could. When it was secured that no one else was listening, Saratobi sighed heavily. "First of all, my deepest condolences on the lose of your family." He began and the 2 older Uchihas nodded, which Sasuke just buried himself into his brother's chest. "For the meantime, you can use the guest room in this tower until I can find you a suitable new home to live in. Though I know you wish to mourn for your family, I would like you both to report to me tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I know you are all tired and the young one must still be in shock. Go rest and I shall see you both in the morning." The old man said as he stood up and the 3 Uchihas bowed, following him out the office and headed to the guest rooms they would be using for the meantime. Whoever it was that had killed their clan either knew of the revolt that the clan head, Uchiha Fugaku, was planning, had been paid by someone else to kill them, or had personal vendetta against their clan. Both Itachi and Shishui were glad that they didn't have to be the ones to kill their clanmates. The next morning, Itachi and Shishui reported as ordered and already had an idea what the Hokage had wanted. And when the meeting had began, they were right. The Hokage spoke of the revolt of the Uchiha head and was both relieved and disturbed on how the matter was resolved. "You can either request it to have another house built upon your compound or moved into another part of the village. The choice is up to you." Itachi turned to Shishui, who looked back at him. Both stared at each other as they had a silent conversation going on between them. Then both turned to the Hokage once more. "If it would be alright, we would like to think about it for a while. We don't think it would be best for Sasuke to live in the same place that our family had died in." Itachi explained and got a nod from the Hokage. "I understand completely. You can have all the time that you want," Saratobi told them. In another part of the village, a smiling de-aged Naruto woke up and stretched on his bed as he yawned once more before getting out of the bed. The massacre last night made Naruto sleep so peaceful for the first time in a very long time. "Morning, Kit." Kyuubi greeted and Naruto smiled. "Good morning to you too. I was planning to run around the village as exercise before going to see the Hokage for the monthly food budget he normally hands me during this time," Naruto told Kyuubi. "Forgo the running today. Head over to the Hokage's tower now. I have a good feeling that we'd see something good." The Kyuubi's voice intrigued Naruto, so he changed into black pants, a plain white tee, and slipped on his sandals. He made sure that his perimeter seals were activated. The last thing Naruto wanted was someone messing up his apartment like before. He wouldn't allow them anymore. With a deep intake of air, Naruto walked down the stairs and made his way calmly to the Hokage's office. As he was walking the streets, a few people were already out and talking with each other about something or another. When the adults saw Naruto, they all then glared at him and were about to say something when 3 of the male adults found themselves unable to move and the next moment flew up a good 5 feet into the air and then slammed forcefully into the ground. "Oh my, I didn't know pathetic villagers could fly. If any of you ever try to hurt me again, no one of will see tomorrow's sunrise," Naruto said with killing intent lacing the last sentence he said. The villagers moved back and all but ran back into their homes to avoid the boy that was the prison cell of a demon fox. Some though that all the years of abusing and hurting him finally came back to kill them if they didn't stop. The boy, even if he was very young, the mere fact that 3 male adults were paralyzed and slammed on the ground before any of them could move was enough to make them want to just keep away from the brat as much as they could. When Naruto reached the tower, Haruka was on duty by the entrance and smiled when he saw the blonde boy. "Good morning, Naruto-kun." He greeted. "Good morning to you too, Iruka-sensei. I came early to see Hokage since it's the only time I can buy fish fresh enough to last a week in the freezer." Naruto said as he smiled. Iruka chuckled and nodded. "Go on ahead. I'm sure he's waiting for you since today is usually the day he gives you your food budget." Iruka said as he ushered the boy inside. None of the Anbu was mean to Naruto, but they weren't close with the boy as well. Naruto gently knocked on the door and opened it without waiting for an answer. "Good morning, Sarutobi Jiji." Naruto greeted with a wide smile. It took a second for him to realize that the old man wasn't alone. Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Shisui were there as well. "Good morning, Naruto. You're a bit early today." The old man greeted the blonde boy with a smile. "Well, I overheard the old lady next door saying to someone that there is fresh fish for sale in the market. I wanted to buy some so I could have something else for the rest of the week." Naruto answered the hidden question. Naruto still loved ramen, but if he was supposed to keep his exercise to make sure his new skills would be of use to him, he needed to work hard and eat right. Sarutobi chuckled and got a small envelope from one of the drawers by his table and beckoned Naruto to come closer. "Naruto, before you leave, you normally ran about the whole village every day, right?" Sarutobi asked. The two Uchihas had a feeling that they knew what the old man wanted to ask the boy. Naruto nodded and smiled. "Yup. I run as exercise every morning at 6 till 8 and again at 4 to 6 in the evening. Iruka-sensei said that I need to build up my stamina." Naruto lied perfectly, but none of the three would ever know of course. "But I wanted to ask if you have seen anyone strange around the village lately." Naruto tilted his head to one side and looked confused. "Strangers in the village? Nope. Not that I've noticed." "Have you tried asking the Chunin stationed at the gates?" Naruto asked. "We have and they said that they themselves have not noticed anyone coming in from another village." "Well, would you tell me if you see anyone who doesn't look like they are from around here?" Sarutobi asked and Naruto sighed. "Does this have anything to do with the incident at the Uchiha compound?" Naruto asked and all three stiffened. "I guess that answers that." "Alright, if I see anyone who doesn't seem to be from Konoha, I'll tell Iruka-sensei if I can't tell you first. And just so you know, I heard about it as I came here. People gossip early in the morning, and when the evening comes, whatever happened during the day will be told differently at night." Naruto said as he took the envelope from the Hokage and smiled. He then turned to bow at the Uchihas. "My deepest condolences for your loss," Naruto said sincerely then left the room. The three adults stared as the young boy left the room and them in silence. Sarutobi then smiled and chuckled a bit. "Is growing up faster than I thought," he said to no one in particular. The two Uchihas were still staring at the door before their attention was called back to the Hokage, who had remained them to keep an eye out for any strange visitors in their village before dismissing them. The days turned to weeks. Weeks turned to months. And months turned to years. Naruto had trained by himself if not with Iruka when the teacher had time to spare and taught Naruto many things that the boy was having trouble with. Iruka didn't want Naruto to fail the Genin exam this year and he made sure that he taught Naruto everything that needed be learned. Naruto smirked to himself as he watched the events unfold before him. Since Itachi didn't murder his clansmates, he stayed as Anbu for Konoha along with his cousin Shisui. He knew that the two Anbu along with Kakashi and a few Jounins were assigned to keep watch over Naruto whenever they could. After the slamming incident that the Hokage, Anbu, Jounins and Chuninins wouldn't believe, the villagers kept their distance and when Naruto did buy from them, they stopped selling him the bad products in fear of being killed by the demon brat when no one was looking. The day of graduation finally came and Naruto had passed his Genin test without trouble. He had killed Mizuki a month before which made Naruto happier than normal. He had not caused too much trouble and had mostly kept to himself. As he entered the room, Iruka was rushing out at the same time. "Just go in and sit down, Naruto. I'll be right back. I just forgot my list of who is on whose team in the Hokage Tower," Iruka explained as he ran down the hallway. Naruto merely chuckled and shook his head in amusement. For his entertainment, Naruto kept with his dead last idol for a while. He was already planning to reveal a little new thing about himself in a little while. He entered the room and saw a few familiar faces. Kiba, Hinata, Shino, Shikamaru, Choji, Niji, and Sasuke were already there. Tenten and Lee were there too when he finished scanning the room. "Wow, Naruto. You clean up good." Kiba joked as he pointed out Naruto's new look. He had green camouflage pants, a black plain tee, his normal sandals and his usual smile. "Well, today is a special day, Kiba. We get to meet our Jounin senseis," he said as he unconsciously sat next to Sasuke. As if by cue, Ino and Sakura ran into the classroom, yelling and calling each other names. "I won so I get to sit next to Sasuke-kun, Ino pig," Sakura yelled. "You didn't win. It was obviously a tie, forehead," Ino yelled back. Sasuke was gritting his teeth as he tried to drown out the annoying voices of the two girls. The rest of the people around were just chuckling since it was normal for the two girls to argue. No one noticed that Naruto was busy doodling on his seat. No one except Sasuke, of course. Ino sat on Sasuke's left side and Sakura was about to sit on Sasuke's right when she saw Naruto already there. "Naruto. Get away from there. I'm sitting next to Sasuke-kun," she yelled. Naruto had always liked her and would do anything she told him to. But she was stunned when Naruto didn't even acknowledge her. Without warning, she lunged at him with an attempt to punch Naruto. But to her and everyone's surprise, Naruto had grabbed her head and slammed the side of her face on the table. "Oh, Sakura-chan. I didn't know you were there. I suggest you don't attack me, nah. I might think that you're an enemy in disguise and might have to kill you without second thoughts. Understood?" He asked her with a sickly sweet smile on his face, but she saw his eyes and they promised undiluted pain if she thought of saying otherwise. The rest of the room were too stunned to move. "What did you say, Sakura-chan?" Naruto asked again, his voice being too dark when he said her name. You understand, and Naruto." She answered him, trying not to show how scared she was. Ino had already moved to the table behind Sasuke and hid in between Choji and Shikamaru. Without hesitating, Naruto let go of Sakura and went back to what he was doing. Doodling. Sakura had moved to sit near Lee and Hinata instead, while Sasuke stared in shock at the blonde-haired person who was the dead last of their batch. The tension that was building inside the room was cut off when Iruka had returned, panting and was trying to catch his breath. "Alright, everyone settle down," he said and the rest quickly sat down. Iruka didn't even notice that most of the students and Sasuke was now sitting as far away from Naruto as possible. "Alright, the list of the teams and who are your jounins are as follows, so please listen well. Rock Lee, Tenten, and Hyuga Neji will be under Team Guy." Iruka began and sans Lee, the other two groaned. "Aburam Shino, Hyuga Hinata, and Inyazuka Kiba will be under Yuhi Kuranaya's teammate." The Kiba looked relieved, Hinata blushed as she turned to look sorrowfully at Naruto since they wouldn't be on the same team, and Shino tried to look passive. Team 10 is composed of Akimichi Choji, Yamanaka Ino, and Nara Shikamaru. Your jounin will be Sarutobi Asuma. Ino was relieved, Choji just shrugged, and Shikamaru murmured troublesome as he closed his eyes once more. Lastly, Team 7 will be Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Uzumaki Naruto. Your jounin will be Hada Kakashi," he said as he sighed. Kakashi would be late for sure, and Iruka knew it. "Everyone is to wait here until your jounins will come to pick you up. Congratulations to everyone and good luck," Iruka said with a smile and left the room. When the door closed, the tension built up once more. Ino prayed for Sakura's soul. No matter how much she liked Sasuke, if she were to choose between which team Sasuke was on and her own, to be on the same team as Naruto, Ino would rather be teamed with the fatty and the lazy bum. Sakura on the other hand paled gloriously as she turned slowly to the smiling Naruto and the wary Sasuke. "Well, would you look at that. We're on the same team, Sakura-chan. And Sasuke is on the same team too. Isn't that what you wanted?" Naruto asked and Sakura flinched a bit. "Stop scaring her, dope." Sasuke finally spoke up. Naruto turned to him with a plastered smile on his face. "Scaring her? I'm not, Sasuke team. I'm just pointing out since she wanted to sit beside you earlier so badly. Now, not only does she get to sit next to you in team meetings, she gets to see you every day. She's lucky that it wasn't Ino who was on our team," Naruto said to him amused. Ino wanted to say something, but Shikamaru stopped her and shook his head. "You should let the lady speak her mind, Shika-kun. It's rude to hinder someone who has something to say, nah," Naruto said as he then turned to smiled at them. Taoji instantly stopped eating, Ino hid behind Shikamaru, and the Nara boy himself swallowed hard. Tenten, Neji, and Lee watched carefully to see if Naruto would do something or say something else. Akamaru hid inside Kiba's jacket, shaking hard at the sight of Naruto looking so murderously perky. I merely wanted to say that even if Sasuke was on the same team as you and Naruto, I would still place myself with Choji and Shikamaru since it's tradition to have a Cho-Ino Shika team between our families." Ino explained with her best brave voice which earned a bigger smile from Naruto. "Congratulations, then you three kept your tradition this year," he said. Everyone was glad that the jounins came in and everyone followed their leaders, except Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke. For the first time, Ino felt sorry and worried for Sakura. But she also felt that Naruto won't hurt his teammates as long as they don't attack him like he said earlier. An hour later, Kakashi finally arrived and Sakura all but ran to hide behind the jounin. "Not the first impression I had thought of you three. Meet me at the rooftop," he said as he then disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sasuke was about to say something when he saw that Naruto was no longer there. His eyes widened more before he ran out the classroom with Sakura right behind him. At the rooftop, Naruto was already there when Kakashi appeared. The masked jounin was stunned when he saw the smiling blonde sitting on the steps and waved at him. "Whoa, I beat sensei coming here," Naruto said happily as he laughed childishly. "How did you get here so fast?" Kakashi asked. "How?" The same thing you did, sensei. Naruto answered and was saved from another question when Sasuke and Sakura came. The girl was trying to catch her breath while Sasuke stared at Naruto with calculating eyes. Kakashi decided to keep his questions to himself after he dismissed the other two. Alright, for now I want you to give me a short introduction of yourselves. Name, age, likes, dislikes, hobbies and dreams. Pinky, you start. Kakashi ordered. Sakura looked confused while Sasuke scoffed and Naruto remained smiling. Can you show us how, sensei? Sakura asked. Naruto contemplated at how Sakura was said to be the brightest of their batch. Okay, listen up, my name is Hada Kakashi. I like many things and I dislike many things. My hobbies and dreams are not of your concern. He said, which made Sakura and Sasuke raised a brow. All they got was his name. Hada Kakashi. Genin at 6, Chunin at 8 and Jounin at 10. He is said to be the most skilled under the tutelage of the Yondaime, Namikaze Minato. His hobby is reading Icha Icha Paradise, which he likes, and he dislikes Mighty Guy since the sensei would always challenge him to anything out of the blue. Naruto shared happily as he got stares from all three. And you know that because? Sasuke asked. I asked Guy sensei once when Iruka sensei and I were having ramen for dinner at Ichiraku's. Guy sensei had come in and was looking for Kakashi sensei. When we told him that he wasn't there, I asked what Kakashi sensei looked like and what kind of person he was. Then when Guy sensei shared, I listened. Then I had been on the lookout. I asked the Chunin guards at the gate a few times as well about Kakashi sensei, and they were the ones who told me that they saw him reading the book he is holding now every time. Naruto answered as if it didn't mean anything at all. Kakashi sighed as he rubbed the back of his head. Guy really had a big mouth. You're up, lackey. Sasuke scoffed at the name. Uchiha Sasuke, 12 years old. I very little likes and dislike many. My hobby is training, and my dream is to find out just had murdered my clan and spared me, my older brother and cousin from the horrors of death by fire. Sasuke and no one spoke. Kakashi knew that Itachi and Shisui must have told the boy and he couldn't begrudge them that since the case had remained open yet till this day, there was no let at all. Sakura wanted to hug her Sasuke-kun while Naruto just stared at Sasuke like he felt sorry for the boy. Or it looked like that to Kakashi. However, inside Naruto's mind, it was completely different. I still can't believe they think they'd be able to catch us. It's been years and they didn't have any leads at all. Kyuubi said as he sneered and Naruto nodded. Let them run around and waste their time on looking for clues they will never find. It does provide us with entertainment still. Naruto said with an amused smirk. Naruto was brought out from his private conversation when Kakashi spoke. Alright, your turn, Pinky. Kakashi said as he turned to Sakura, who had forgotten that she was on the same team as Naruto simply because she was sitting next to Sasuke at the moment. I'm Haruno Sakura, she began. I like Teehee, a quick blushing glance at the brunette boy next to her. My dreams of the future she squealed with another glance at the same boy. Kakashi sighed. Great, a fangirl. Dislikes? He asked her. Sakura was about to answer when it hit her, she couldn't very well say Naruto. Not after what had happened earlier in the room. Sasuke was looking at her too, wondering what she'd answer. I dislike no pig. Sakura answered and crossed her arms. Naruto and Kyuubi were laughing inside. Oh my kid, she had to think before answering that one lest she get another bashing once more. I did not think she would learn this quickly. Naruto thought back as he laughed with Kyuubi. Pay attention, kid. Your sensei is watching you. Naruto kept his smile when Kakashi finally turned to him. Your last, Smiley. Kakashi said as the other two also turned to Naruto. Hello, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I'm 12 years of age. I find it most gratifying when I attend to my small garden. I also find it most enjoyable when I determine with certainty information I tend to gather, usually by making an inquiry with those who are more connized with whatever it is I wish to learn. I tend to disfavor those who attempt to ostentate skills and talents that should be noticed by others on their own accord and not by pointing it out by themselves. I also tend to disfavor those who are unripe in the ways of life, cacophonic individuals who resort to pure brawniness just to get their way. My hobbies are learning, reading, sketching, observing, collecting, and surviving. My dream would be to show how much different I really am to those who see me differently as well. He said with a smile on his face. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura stared at Naruto for a very long time. The Kakashi, it seemed as if the records he had read about the boy was written by biased bastards. The Sasuke and Sakura, the dope and dead last of their batch, had secretly insulted them, but they couldn't be sure since Naruto had been using big words that even Sakura had never heard of before. Kakashi was first to snap out of the trance and cleared his throat, snapping the other two out of their thoughts as well. Alright, now that the introductions are over, we meet at the training ground 7 tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock for survival training. Don't eat breakfast. Dismissed. he said, and before he could say anything or even the other two, Naruto disappeared instantly in a puff of smoke. Kakashi knew that there was something else about Naruto that was not right. Sasuke understood that Naruto wasn't as stupid as he showed everyone. And lastly, Sakura finally realized that despite how many times she had screamed at Naruto and pushed him around, he didn't fight back before he was weak. No. He didn't fight back before he was strong enough to probably kill her. And the thought alone made Sakura shudder to her very bones. Naruto was changing, and all three of them were beginning to see the blonde unravel right before their very eyes. The next day, Naruto had woken up extra earlier to do his morning exercises before meeting up with his team. He already knew Kakashi would be late, so there was really no point on going at the rendezvous point early. He had calmly made breakfast, talked to Kyuubi, showered, changed into black pants, black long-sleeve shirt with the crest of the Uzumaki clan at the back. He then wore his good sandals and teleported himself and landed a few feet from where Sasuke and Sakura were. "You're late." Sakura yelled, totally forgetting the incident that happened yesterday. "Is the sensei here yet?" Naruto asked. "No." Sasuke answered. "Well then, seeing as our teacher has yet to arrive, I am not late as you put it, Sakura-chan." Naruto explained with a smile on his face as he jumped into the tree branch that was above Sasuke's head. Not long after Naruto arrived, Kakashi came and Sakura had sprung to her feet once more. "You're late, Kakashi-sensei," she accused the man. Sasuke sneered at her actions, while Naruto just stared with a smile on his face like nothing was wrong. "Sorry about that. I ran into an old lady who needed help with her grocery bags." He lied without remorse. Sasuke and Sakura stared in obvious disbelief while Naruto laughed. "Oh my, and what will it be next time? You got lost in the road of life?" Naruto asked as he tried to control his laughter better. Kakashi stared at the laughing blonde boy. How did he know that alibi? He thought at first but then sighed. Naruto must have asked Guy or Ruka again. If not them, the other jounins. It was then that Sasuke noticed the things their sensei brought with him. 2 abentos, an alarm clock, and 2 bells. "Alright, I thought about your answers yesterday, none of it impressed me. So your official genin exam begins now. You must get these bells away from me. The one without a bell fails, gets tied to a post and doesn't eat lunch," Kakashi told them. The next thing the other three knew, Naruto jumped down from the tree branch and was now holding the 2 bells. "I win," he said happily as he shook the bells in his hands. Kakashi's eyes widened in disbelief, Sasuke was stunned while Sakura was left shocked. It was like the incident yesterday when Naruto had moved too fast even for Sasuke or Sakura to have seen. Then the three stiffened when Naruto lost his smile and narrowed his eyes at Kakashi. Secretly, the other 2 students were relieved that Naruto wasn't looking at them, but at their teacher. "These bells, they don't belong to you," Naruto said as a cool breeze blew by. He had found out from Tsunade that the bells Kakashi had used on them in his past was from the Yondaime who had used the bell test on Kakashi and his team before. "No, they are not," he answered the unspoken question. "They belong to my sensei who gave us the same test I am giving you and he allowed me to keep it." He added and got an understanding nod from Naruto who had tossed the bells back to him. "I won't ask if you would let me keep them. I can tell they mean a lot to you since your chakra signature is intertwined with the chakra signature of its original owner," Naruto said as he then slowly smiled once more. Kakashi nodded and the next movement was of him having tied the 2 others who were lost in thought. He then tossed the abentos to Naruto who caught them with ease. "You 2 will stay there until noon," was all he said as he then vanished from their view. Naruto had sat down under the tree branch he had been occupying not too long ago and began to eat one of the abentos. Sakura watched him and her stomach protested. She had not eaten as instructed so she was hungry that very moment. Sasuke on the other hand was still thinking about how Naruto was able to do what he did a few minutes ago. Kakashi was on top of a tree, watching them. And out of nowhere, a crystal dome erupted and covered Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. 3 ninjas appeared in the middle of the field and Kakashi didn't waste any moment. And jumped down from where he was. But to his horror, he couldn't get into the dome. The next thing he did was summon Pakken. At the Hokage and tell him to bring all the Anbu, Jounins, and Chuninins here as fast as he can. The next second, Pakken was gone. Kakashi couldn't see the faces of the ninjas since it was covered and only their eyes could be seen. Naruto had dropped his abento the moment he saw the crystal dome cover them and moved to free his teammates and give them kunes to protect themselves as well. "Blondie, come with us and bring the Uchiha with you. If you obey, we won't hurt the girl," said one of the ninjas in a deep tone. "What do you want from me and Sasuke?" Naruto asked carefully. "What we want is not important. Just be a good boy and come along," said another with a lighter tone than the first one. "And if we don't obey?" Sasuke asked. "Then we'll just have to drag you with us whether you like it or not." This time, a feminine voice spoke up. The next moment, the Hokage arrived with the Anbu and the others. "Let this dome down immediately," He commanded and the rest quickly did as they were told. The three unknown ninjas laughed. Don't bother, Hokage-sama. You couldn't break that dome no matter how many of your ninjas tried together. You couldn't even break the dome before, what makes you think you can break this one? The feminine voice taunted them. The adults outside the dome stiffened. Whoever those ninjas were must be the same ones who had killed the Uchiha clan a few years ago. Now, back to business Blondie, come alone quietly with the Uchiha and we won't have to hurt you. Said the deep-toned ninja. Over my dead body. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. He said and two other Narutos appeared. Protect Sakura. He said before he and his clones lunged forward to attack the ninjas. Naruto no. Hiruka screamed from the outside. The clones were having Taijutsu battles with the deep-toned ninja and the feminine-toned ninja, while the real Naruto had transformed his kunai into a spear and attacked the ninja who was in the middle. Naruto was holding up as best as he could. No one had noticed that two another ninjas were coming behind Sakura and Sasuke. Sasuke. Look out. Itachi yelled from the other side of the dome. Sasuke instantly jumped back, pulling Sakura with him, and ran towards Naruto who was being pushed back. His clones then vanished when his two teammates arrived. Just come along and we promise we won't hurt you both. Said the feminine ninja. Never. Naruto yelled at them. Suddenly, bright red aura engulfed Naruto and his eyes turned red and an aura tail came out. You won't be able to bring my human anywhere. Naruto said as his voice deepened and echoed. He did a set of hand seals in rapid motions. Article style. Globe of destruction. He said and a globe of fire, water and earth covered Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura. We have to go now. Yelled the ninja with a deep tone. The other four sneered but nodded. We will be back. The feminine ninja said and all five vanished. Naruto released the globe and it pushed away from them and destroyed the crystal dome. The next thing that happened was Naruto collapse and his teammates caught him before he fell on the ground. The adults ran to them and Iruka quickly inspected Naruto in his arms. Everyone was holding their breath as they waited for Iruka to tell them if the boy was alright. Kurenai was trying to calm Sakura while Itachi and Shisui were looking Sasuke all over. How is he, Iruka? Sarutobi asked. He is fine. His chakra reserves are very low. Must be from the jutsu he did to protect himself, Sasuke-kun and Sakura-chan from the ninjas. He'll be fine after he rests. Iruka informed them and everyone breathed out in so much relief. Inside Naruto's mindscape, he and Kyuubi were laughing so hard. If that stunt doesn't freak them out, I'll eat my own fur. Kyuubi said which made Naruto laugh harder. Oh Kami-sama, I can't believe we managed to pull it off. Naruto said as he sat up in front of Kyuubi who was sitting down as well. Expect them to bombard you with questions when you wail up, kid. He said to Naruto who nodded. I'm expecting it. No doubt they would ask what that jutsu I did and how I learned it. He told Kyuubi who nodded back. Well, this will put your acting skills to the ultimate test. And it will be the greatest prank if you manage to convince everyone after this. Kyuubi informed him and both chuckled. Very well then you better have my award ready. I'm sure to win best actor of the century after this. Naruto said and vanished before the Kyuubi. Everyone was inside the Hokage's office and Iruka had placed Naruto on the couch while everyone were waiting for Naruto to wake up. I hope he wakes up soon. We have to thank him for keeping Sasuke from harm. Shisui said as he ran a hand on Naruto's blonde locks. Hokage-sama, what do you think about the red aura that had covered Naruto earlier? Kakashi asked and everyone turned to the old man. They all waited to hear the explanation to what they had seen not an hour ago in the training grounds. I am not sure. It cannot be the power that is inside Naruto. However, the red aura must have been that power's defense mechanism when Naruto was threatened. Naruto does not know much yet since he just graduated, so the only explanation I have till Naruto wakes up is that his power pushed out to protect him and the other two. Sarutobi told them and they all turned to look at the sleeping blonde. The next thing they saw was the boy move and opened his eyes, jumping into the middle of the room and looking around as if he was in danger. Naruto. Naruto. Calm down. You're safe now. You're safe. Iruka tried to calm the boy who looked scared. Iruka-sensei. What? Where? How? Naruto asked with a very confused look which made everyone nodded as if a question was posted by someone. Naruto, it's alright. You and your teammates are safe now. The ninjas are gone and you're in my office. Sarutobi spoke and Naruto turned to him. Sarutobi Jiji. What happened? Who were they and why did they want me and Sasuke? How did we get here? Where are they now? What? Naruto was cut off by the old man. Naruto, calm down and I shall try to explain as best as I can. He said with a relieved smile on his lips. The boy sighed and fell on the floor and then turned to look at the room filled with people before turning to the old man once more, waiting for an explanation. As you asked, the ninjas who attacked you got away. We think that they were the same ninjas who had killed the Uchiha clan a few years ago. You ask why they came for you and Sasuke, that I do not know. He said as he rubbed his temples a bit before addressing the whole room. What I will be sharing next will remain in this room and must never, under any circumstance, be repeated outside. He commanded and everyone nodded, including Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke. If sure everyone here minus the 3 genins remember the attack that had killed many of our ninjas and people a few years back. The Kyuubi no Kitsune. The old man began and everyone sans the children stiffened. Beyond aim, Namikaze Minato had defeated the Kyuubi and being a master of Fuinjutsu, sealed the Kyuubi inside his newborn son in order to make sure that the creature would never be able to wreak havoc and kill again. Upon sealing the Kyuubi, Minato and his wife Kushina, who had died giving birth to their son, died after the seal was complete. He had used every last % of his chakra to create the strongest seal known to man. Sarutobi narrated to the whole group who were all having their own flashbacks of the event. I'm sorry but what does that have to do with those ninjas wanting Sasuke-kun and Naruto? Sakura asked. I have a guess that they might be after the Kyuubi's vessel and the youngest Uchiha. The Kyuubi is inside you, Naruto. That seal on your stomach is what keeps the Kyuubi from coming out and killing everyone like how it did years ago. Sarutobi explained and everyone turned to see how Naruto would react. Naruto then laughed and fell on his back. He laughed really hard before sitting up and wiping a tear from his eyes. That's a good one, Hokage. But seriously, why do they want Sasuke for? Naruto asked with an amused smile on his face. Everyone felt a bit bad now for Naruto. Naruto, I wasn't joking when I said that you are the Kyuubi's vessel. And why they want the youngest Uchiha might be because they want him for their bloodline trait. I think they want to brainwash him and train him to use his power to attack our village. Sarutobi told Naruto, who then stood up and looked angry. You're telling me that I'm a prison cell for a power that destroyed this village, is that the reason why everyone in the village hates my guts and would try to kill me every chance they get, he asked angrily, and the adults flinched. Naruto tried to calm Naruto but was cut off. Shut up. That's it, isn't it, the reason why all the people here wants me gone or dead every day? Why they try to kill me harder on my birthday? You're telling me that my father was the yondaime who trapped this thing inside me, tell me. Naruto demanded and everyone could no longer look at Naruto without feeling guilty. They knew that the people didn't like Naruto, but it was new to them that the villager were trying to kill Naruto. Yes, Naruto. Was all the Hokage said and dropped his head in shame. I hate you. I hate all of you. He said seriously and ran to the window and jumped out. No one dared to move. They didn't know what to do or how they could face the boy who was bearing the burden of keeping the creature that had killed the yondaime. The boy had been hated and yet he didn't know why. He didn't even know who his parents were. Now he knew and he didn't take it too well. No one could blame the boy. If they were in his place, they probably would have reacted worse than just say that they hated everyone and ran off. Iruka then stood up and jumped out, knowing well where Naruto would go. I knew that someday we would have to tell Naruto the truth, Sarutobi began. But you didn't think it would be this soon, did you? Asuma asked and got a nod from his father. He'll surely go to the Hokage monument. We better go. Sarutobi said and everyone nodded. Even Sasuke and Sakura followed. They felt so bad for Naruto. He had been hated for something he had no control over, and Sasuke came to realize how much harder Naruto's life was than his own. At the monument, Naruto was crying as he looked at the face of the yondaime. I hate you. I hate you for trapping this monster inside me. I hate you for dying and leaving me alone. I hate this village you protected for hating me when I had done nothing wrong. I hate my life. Naruto yelled as he cried. Iruka had arrived and tried to get close to Naruto. Naruto, please calm down. He tried to comfort Naruto, who moved back when Iruka tried to get close. Stay away from me. The names of the people on the slab at the memorial stone. You have someone there as well, right? You hate me too, right, Iruka-sensei? I killed someone you cared for. He accused as he cried harder. Just then the others arrived. I don't hate you, Naruto. You have done nothing wrong. It wasn't your fault why those ninjas died. Please Naruto, please came back to me and calm down. He said as he moved forward and Naruto made no attempt to move away. Iruka slowly wrapped his arms around Naruto and the boy cried harder as Iruka held him close. Everyone watched as Naruto broke down in Iruka's arms while Iruka rocked them back and forth to calm the crying boy. No one else could do anything or say anything to make the wild thing better. Even Sakura cried for her teammate that was crying after finding out about his true heritage and why the villager were cruel to him. After a while of crying, Naruto had fallen asleep in Iruka's arms with his face still wet from all the crying he did. It had been Kakashi could bent down and scoop Naruto into his arms. I think he earns the long rest. He said as he looked down at the child of his sensei who looked broken in his arms. Kakashi, you and Iruka take Naruto back to his apartment. Watch over him. Shisui, you and Itachi take Sasuke home and rest up as well. Kurenai, Guy take Sakura back to her home and let her sleep. Everyone search the whole village for any signs of those ninjas. I want a report on my table before the sun sets tomorrow. He ordered and everyone nodded before leaving to their separate destinations. It didn't take long for Kakashi and Iruka arrive at Naruto's home and had entered. Naruto had disabled his seals before heading to the training ground that day. Kakashi carried Naruto to his bedroom and gently laid the sleeping boy and Iruka tucked Naruto in. Without warning, Naruto grabbed Iruka's wrist and Naruto's eyes opened, revealing red eyes of the Kyuubi. "Heard my kid again, and I will find ways to kill each and every one of you and destroy this god-forsaken village." Then Naruto closed his eyes and dropped his hand as if nothing happened. Both adults stared in shock for a few minutes before leaving Naruto to sleep. They went to the living dining room and sat down, not one of them broke the silence for a long time. "Go home and get some rest, Iruka. I'll watch Naruto tonight. You can watch him in the morning if he still hasn't woken up," Kakashi said as he stood up once more after what seemed to have been forever. The Jounin had walked to Naruto's bedroom once more and closed the door behind him. Iruka sat there for a little while longer before he stood up and left. He needed rest, but he was going to wake up early to make sure that if Naruto woke up, there would be food for him. In the bedroom, Kakashi sat next to Naruto's bed and ran a hand through the sleeping boy's hair. "You know, you and Sensei look so much alike. I tried my best to protect you as you grew older, but I could never be there when you needed me the most. I vowed to keep you safe, but it seemed like I failed. I failed Sensei, I failed you, Naruto. I'm so sorry as I watched you grow. I don't know when it started or how it became to be, but I saw you as you and not as my sensei's son. I love you Naruto. I will try to protect you harder this time around," Kakashi whispered as he pulled his mask down and placed a kiss on Naruto's forehead. He then placed his head down on the bed and kept his hand on one of Naruto's hand. Kakashi didn't want to lose Naruto at the moment and no matter what, he would keep Naruto safe now. Whoever it was that was after him, Kakashi was going to fight them and keep Naruto close and safe. While Naruto felt Kakashi staying by his side, he had slipped into his mindscape and faced an amused-looking fox. "Oh my, I wonder I knew I was right the first time, kid. I did give you all those hints before. You were just so dense back then." Kyuubi teased and Naruto turned to a deeper shade of red. I didn't think. I thought that it was a parental thing with him." Naruto tried but knew in his heart that it wasn't. "You do know that what you just said contradicted how you really think and feel, right?" Naruto simply nodded. "Just as long as you know I know that when we came back, we planned to change how we ended up in our future. But as I see it clearly, this is also a chance for you to be happy. You never got to be happy the first time around. I won't apologize since it wasn't entirely my fault, but this time kid, you deserve to be happy. Even I know it." Kyuubi laid his case to Naruto who looked uncertain. "You don't have to make a decision now. You have time still," Kyuubi said as he smiled at Naruto and ruffled his head. "Thanks Kyuubi," Naruto told the fox and smiled a bit. "Anytime, kid. Now get some rest. You've earned it since you just did a spectacular performance." Both laughed. "I did tell you I'd win that Best Actor of the Century award," Naruto said as he entered Kyuubi's cell and curled up next to the huge fox and buried his face on the warm and soft fur. Unknown to Naruto, he wasn't the only one who remembered everything about the future. A certain redhead had just finished visiting the rest of the Jinchurikis, and they all laughed when they came to a solid conclusion that this was Naruto's doing. And since they were all given a second chance to live, they had sworn their loyal and second lives to Naruto and vowed to come to his aid when he needed them. Shukaku had promised that she'd behave this time and so did the rest. Now, as he was in view of the gates of the Hidden Leaf village, he sped up stopped by the watchers to hand in his papers before entering the village and heading to the Hokage's office before looking for the blonde. When Gaara had faced Sarutobi, the old man had been stunned when he had read the papers that the boy in front of him was to stay with one Uzumaki Naruto until Gaara was summoned back home. Of course, Gaara had disciplined his father a long time ago and had the man in his submission. It stunned his siblings, but they accepted it since he had opened up to them, keeping the fact that he knew the future thanks to Naruto after he sorted out his thoughts and formulated plans to accommodate the second chance to change things. "Well, I don't mind as long as Naruto doesn't mind." "And you say you know each other?" Sarutobi asked carefully. He knew for a fact that Naruto had never left the village. Ever. But here was a genin from the Sand Village claiming he and Naruto are friends. "I assure you, Naruto will be pleased to see me. If I may take my leave now?" Gaara asked patiently. "Alright, however, I ask that you be careful around Naruto for a while. He just found new information about himself and he didn't take it too well," Sarutobi said with concern while Gaara simply smiled a bit. Knowing that blonde is already up and making ramen for breakfast. "He will be fine, Hokage-sama. Have more faith in him," Gaara said before he left the office and patiently walked out the building before jumping on the rooftops and headed for Naruto's apartment. He remembered it when Naruto had spoken of it to him many times before. Meanwhile at Naruto's place, Kakashi woke up to the smell of breakfast filling the whole room. He instantly sat up and saw that Naruto was no longer in bed and made a mad dash out the room only to be welcomed with a table filled with food. He then turned and saw Naruto busy squeezing oranges into a pitcher. "Morning." Kakashi greeted, tearing away Naruto's attention from his task. "Good morning, Kakashi-sensei. Please have a seat. Breakfast is ready and the juice is nearly done." Naruto greeted back with a big and happy smile on his face. Kakashi couldn't help but smile back underneath his mask and take a seat as he was told. He waited for Naruto to join him before attempting to devour the wonderful smelling food in front of him. A minute passed and Naruto sat across him and both said grace and began to eat in peace. It couldn't be helped, but Kakashi kept glancing at Naruto all throughout the meal. Naruto then, finally giving up pretending to not notice, sighed. "I'm fine now, Kakashi-sensei. Yes, yesterday still shook me up, but I thought about it as I made breakfast. You all had a good reason to keep the information from me. I still am a bit disappointed though that despite knowing what happened, these villagers don't seem to see the burden that I carry in order for them to continue to live their lives in peace." The Kyuubi inside was pouting and Naruto was laughing in his mindscape. Before Kakashi could even say anything, the window opened and suddenly, a red head was standing behind Naruto. "Room for one more?" the boy asked. Naruto looked up, his eyes widened in surprise before he smiled. "Ara?" Naruto exclaimed before dropping his chopsticks on the table and sprang up to hug the other. Ara hugged Naruto back but glared at Kakashi who shrugged. "Of course there is room for one more. Sit down and I'll get you a bowl and utensils." Naruto ordered happily before running to the kitchen to gather what he needed. "If I knew you have company, I would have waited at the Hokage Tower, Naruto." Gaara said as he then proceeded to ignore Kakashi who was looking at him. Naruto came back and filled Gaara's bowl with rice. "And I would have been pissed if you had done that. By the way, Kakashi-sensei, this is Gaara. Gaara, this is my team leader, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto introduced, which actually wasn't even necessary. For Gaara that is. While he was in the kitchen, Kyuubi told him that Gaara knew what they did and remembered everything since Gaara had Shukaku inside him once again. "Had a Kakashi, son of the White Fang. Even in our village he is known. Glad to know that you have an able mentor, Naruto." Gaara said as he accepted the bowl of rice from Naruto and began to eat after saying grace. "So, what brings you here? Aside from possibly hitting me later?" Naruto asked with a grin which earned him a grin from Gaara as well. "Well, changed happened and I am here to stay until I'm called home for. I had gone to visit the others and we all had a good laugh about you. Only you could have managed such a feat. Anyway, I am sure that later today your whole team will be summoned by your Hokage and will inform you that I will be temporarily joining your team while I'm here." Gaara answered Naruto who then launched himself to hug the redhead. "I have a partner while the team and forehead butt heads with each other," Naruto said happily. Kakashi was listening to the conversation and didn't like how close the two seemed. Yes, Naruto was still 12 and all, but that didn't mean that someone Naruto's age ought to come and be close with a blonde, since Kakashi couldn't very well be his as of the moment. He was brought out of his musing when a spider monkey came into the apartment and bumped Kakashi's head, making Naruto laugh a bit. "Sarutobi Jiji wants you and your team in his office by 10 o'clock," said the messenger before disappearing into a puff of smoke. "There you go. The summon," Gaara said casually. With a shrug, Kakashi summoned Pakken to tell Sasuke and Sakura about the meeting with the Hokage in 2 hours. The dog then jumped out the window and the three continued to eat in silence. Gaara and Kakashi glared at each other while Naruto pretended to not see it. Well, it didn't really last long since Naruto didn't want any conflict that was as petty and as childish as this. "Alright, enough you two," Naruto said with a serious voice and both turned to him before bowing their heads in shame. "Look, Sen Kakashi, I do not know if it is love that I feel for you, but I deeply care for you as well. In time, I might be able to say that I love you as well. However, I love Gaara as well. He knows me in ways that you or anyone else can only imagine. He knows well how to work around my mood swings and deal with me. So please, for now, I want you both to be civil with each other. You don't have to be friends. It would be asking the sea to disappear," Naruto requested. It took both a few minutes to decide it, but both males nodded afterwards. "Naruto, I will have you know that I will only be willing to share you with a few others. Any more than that and I will have to get rid of them," Gaara said as he glared at Kakashi. Naruto smiled a bit and nodded. "It's like you know something I don't, Gaara. Will you tell me?" Naruto asked. Gaara shook his head and smirked. "If I tell you, it wouldn't be a surprise, now would it?" he teased the blonde who pouted. "I concede and agree with him, Naruto. I won't be willing to share you with so many others. And if you want us to be able to tolerate each other, then I will try my best," Kakashi told Naruto. It was totally not like him, but then again, Naruto was not like his usual self as well. "On second thought, Naruto, you can skip the meeting since you already know what the Hokage wants. You can show me your favorite training spot. I think you mentioned it before that it has a nice clearing and all. Haddock-san can go to that meeting with the Uchiha and the useless one," Gaara said as he smiled at Naruto who was beaming. Naruto turned to Kakashi with pleading eyes. Gaara felt a bit bad for the older man, knowing well that no living soul could ever say no to Naruto's pleading look. And as expected, Kakashi sighed. Alright, but be sure that you are in the training ground when we get there after the meeting with the Hokage. Kakashi told Naruto, who then launched himself and gave him a hug before running to his room to shower. Kakashi turned to Gaara, who hid his smirk behind his bowl. You knew he'd give me that look, didn't you? Gaara merely chuckled. I have a feeling it won't be the last time I'd have it used on me. Kakashi said as he finished his meal. If you're serious about Naruto, then no. It won't be the last time. And trust me, that look was not half how it would be when he wants something bigger than just skipping out on meetings. Gaara told the other and placed down his chopsticks. Both sighed before standing up and worked together to clean the table. By the way, how many others do you think will? Kakashi trailed off as Gaara sighed. Aside from you and me, there are 3 others. And some of our friends will be clingy to Naruto when they visit. Gaara was thinking of Utakata, Yujito, Yagura, and Fu. There was no doubt in Gaara's mind that Yujito would mother Naruto when she came to visit him. No matter how much Gaara tried, it was a bit too late to have saved Fukai. Even the others tried to help, but Fukai was adamant that he didn't want another chance. He had enough, and even if Naruto would be able to change things, the fact that he could still remember his first set of past, Fukai just didn't want it at all. He had requested that he be killed, and his Bijuu was placed inside a gourd much like Gaara's and buried deep into the earth so that no one would be able to use it. There was no doubt in Gaara's mind that Naruto knew that Guki was deep down beneath the earth and Fukai no longer was among the living. It was better left unspoken, since Naruto would most likely feel bad that Fukai chose to end his second life rather than try to forge a better one. When Naruto came out of his bedroom, he was dressed in black pants, a white shirt with a black vest, bearing the insignia of the Uzumaki clan on his back. The minus of the orange made Naruto look far more captivating than the first time. For Gaara. You guys cleaned up? Sorry. I just got excited. Naruto apologized, but both shook their heads. It's fine, Naruto. Gaara said and smiled at the blonde. If you didn't act the way you did, it would have worried us a bit. Kakashi added and chuckled. Naruto blushed a bit before shaking his head to run to the door and wear his sandals. Come on. He called for them as he led them all out his small apartment. Kakashi bid the two and headed back to his apartment to shower and change before the meeting. Naruto and Gaara then walked the streets, and Gaara listened to Naruto as the blonde pointed at anything and everything they passed by. They took their time walking to Naruto's favorite training ground where there was a small river on the side. Nagara, how are? They are all fine, Naruto. And they will thank you personally when they come to visit you soon. Gaara cut him off and smiled. Naruto gave him a sincere smile, and both admired the scenery before them for a little while in peace. 2 hours later, Sasuke and Sakura were outside the Hokage's office and wondered why they were called for. If it was about what had happened the day before, they wondered if they would be vowed to secrecy or something. However, both were brought out of their musings when Kakashi appeared and greeted them. Yo. Sensei, why are we here? And where is Naruto? Sakura asked instantly. Well, we are here because we were summoned by the Hokage, and as for Naruto, he is showing the reason why we are summoned around the village. We will meet up with them after. He told them and turned to knock on the door. Sasuke and Sakura looked at each other for a bit before following their sensei inside the office. The Hokage had sighed when he saw that Naruto was not present. I guess Naruto already knows, Kakashi? He asked. Yes, the guest came while we were having breakfast, and Naruto had taken it upon himself to show the boy around. Kakashi explained and got a nod. Very well, then I called to inform you that for the time being, you will have a temporary member while he is residing here. Sabaku no Gaara of the Sand Village will be a member of Team 7, and I expect that he will be watched and cared for. The boy is the youngest son of the Kazekage of the Sand Village, and if anything ever happened to him, Konoha will face a very powerful enemy. I do not want it to happen, so make sure that nothing happens. As for why he is here, the note that I got from the Kazekage merely stated that Gaara had been wanting to visit Naruto, who is a close friend of his. The Kazekage head wore down after months of nagging from his son and finally allowed him to come. Gaara will return to Sand when his father calls him back. The Sand Dame explained while Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura gaped. Kakashi didn't know that the redhead that he met earlier was an important person. But then again, it didn't change the fact that Kakashi would be having multiple arguments with him in the future. Not that it would turn into a fight, just heated arguments. Sasuke on the other hand was very troubled. How the hell did the dope know such a person? A son of a Kazekage of all people. Not only had the dope tried to save his life yesterday, show off that he had skills better than Sasuke, now he had friends in high places. Sasuke just mentally cursed. Sakura was another story. She wondered what kind of boy Gaara was and how he was friends with Naruto. She began to come up with an image of a polite, quiet, and cute little boy. Polite and quiet since they were told that Gaara was a son of a Kazekage. So obviously, the boy would have manners. Little because the Sandaime said that Gaara was the youngest son. Sakura knew that Naruto had little to no friends their age and was closer to children like the Sandaime's grandson and those two others that was with the honorable grandson most of the time if Naruto wasn't around. But then again, she was conflicted with the question of just how old this guest was. She wanted to know but didn't have the courage to ask. Well, she'd find out later on anyway. After a few more warnings from the Hokage, the three bowed and left the office and made their way to the training area where Kakashi said Naruto and the guest would be at. While waiting, Naruto had convinced Gaara to play with him. Naruto had taught Gaara the Shadow Clone Jutsu before and both had made 5 others. A game of dodgeball with a Rasengan as the ball. All 6 Gaaras were in the middle, while 3 Narutos were on opposite sides. If Naruto got all clones to disappear, it would be Gaara's turn using a sandball instead. While they were playing, Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke had arrived and were watching in shock as they saw the game being played in front of them. Kakashi didn't know that Naruto could make solid clones and have them able to stay this long. However, as he watched more carefully, he was left stunned when he finally recognized a ball being used to defeat the guest. A Rasengan. It was a technique created by the Yondaime when he was alive. Now he was seeing it again, and Kakashi felt so pleased that the technique was being utilized by Naruto, even if it was for a game. The fact that Naruto could make it was enough proof that the blonde was far stronger than he showed everyone. The game was near its end when Gaara finally used one of his clones as a bat to hit the ball to the river and turned to the other 3 who were watching them. Naruto turned to where Gaara was looking and smiled when he saw Kakashi. "Hey. How was the meeting?" Naruto asked and Kakashi smiled back and made his way to the other 2, knowing well that Sasuke and Sakura would follow. It was as Gaara-kun had said. The Hokage had called us to inform us that from today till he is called back, Sabaku no Gaara would be a member of Team 7. Kakashi said with a cheerful tone. Sasuke was mentally cursing once more when he saw that their temporary member was stronger than him. Those clones were something Sasuke couldn't even do as of yet. And how the hell, again, did the dope learn such a technique before him? Sakura was staring. The boy in question was roughly about their age. And despite the black rings on his eyes, the boy was handsome. He had an air about him that screamed power and mystery. He stood tall and was somewhat like Sasuke, quiet and aloof. While they were watching the scenery, Naruto had updated Gaara with a few changes that he had done in Konoha. Gaara had found out that instead of Uchiha Itachi murdering his clan, Naruto had done it instead and had never been caught. Not that it was a surprise. Gaara would have been disappointed if Naruto did get caught. "Gaara, these are the rest of Team 7. Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura. Sasuke, Sakura, this is Gaara of the Sand Village." Naruto introduced with a big smile. Gaara eyed the other 2 before scoffing. "A spoiled brat and a useless kunoichi with a massive forehead. Too bad you didn't get the male Hyuga and that Nara kid instead, Naruto. A Byakugan user, a strategist, and you as a close combat fighter, you'd be the strongest team when you enter the Chunin exams." Gaara commented, which ticked the other 2 off. Naruto just chuckled while Kakashi just fished out his book from his jacket pocket. "Well, since we don't have any missions yet, you 4 can have the day off to get to know each other. Tomorrow, we'll do a few D-rank missions to warm up," Kakashi said as he then vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto and Gaara knew that Kakashi didn't want to be around to have to play referee for them since Gaara was outspoken about Sasuke and Sakura. The moment the Jounin was gone, Sasuke glared at Gaara before throwing a kunai at him out of nowhere. But to the Raven's shock, a shield of sand appeared out of nowhere and shielded Gaara and Naruto from the attack. "Correction, a weak and spoiled brat," Gaara said as he turned to Naruto, who chuckled once more. "Gaara, Sasuke isn't weak. He is a new graduate genin as Sakura, so they both don't know much yet. I've told you that the academy hasn't really taught much that should be more important to the survival of its ninjas. The genins learn them when they have their jounins and trained out of the academy in between C and D rank missions." Naruto explained, totally ignored what Sasuke had just done. Besides, Sakura is only lackadaisical since she uses her time on less significant cause while the team goes about with an opulent air about him. "Give them time and they'll get better," Naruto said, defending yet insulting them at the same time. The clueless look on Sakura and Sasuke's face was enough to make Gaara understand what those 2 were like the first time. He had never liked the Uchiha the first time since he was selfish, self-important, and a bigger asshole than Kankura was. The girl had always appeared as shallow to him. And his thoughts of her remained the same till now. While Gaara was deep in thought, Sasuke and Sakura were trying to piece together Naruto's words. They felt the same thing they did when they all have introduced themselves to each other. Naruto had somehow insulted them before and it was the same way now. But like before, they just couldn't say how they were insulted. Sasuke scoffed and turned his heel and left the training ground. Sakura had left instantly after Sasuke, leaving the 2 boys alone. Naruto then turned to Gaara and placed his hands on his hips. "Will you tell me just who else will be joining our little harem?" Even the Kyuubi is laughing at me since I know not who. He won't tell me. Naruto said in a whining tone. Gaara shook his head and laughed a bit. You will find out in time, Naruto. Besides, it would be best that you do not know so that you would be able to see how their feelings for you bloom. Just like how mine and Kakashi's feelings for you did. Gaara said as he cupped one of Naruto's cheeks and smiled. Naruto sighed as he leaned on the touch. Fine. I won't ask anymore. Naruto gave in and smiled back at Gaara before both left the training field and headed for the village square to show Gaara around more. It didn't take an hour before the rest of the Rookie 12 to find out about the temporary member of Team 7. Sakura had gone to tell Ino. Both then ran into Tenten and Lee, followed by Kiba who was walking Akamaru. The group became bigger when Shikamaru came with Choji, followed by Niji and Hinata. Sasuke had gone home since he was sulking and cursing under his breath. The last one who came was Shino, but that was only coincidence since the boy had just finished running an errand for his father. Everyone had gathered at the Choji's family restaurant for lunch and talked about the guest. Niji listened even if he didn't show he was interested. He had only gone out since Hinata originally wanted to buy flowers from Ino's flower shop. I swear, Naruto changed. Sakura told them and Ino was actually nodding. I agree. Remember how Naruto had slammed Sakura on the table? Akamaru had jumped into my jacket and shivered in fright. Kiba added. Naruto would not have done it if Sakura had not dared to attack him. We all know that Naruto is forgiving and had always allowed Sakura to push him around. But did you all really think that Naruto wouldn't one day just ran out of patience? The village hates him and I know you all can't see it. It doesn't take much to put two and two together. Why they hate him is still a mystery, but I'm sure that eventually we'd all find out why. However, for the meantime, whoever this friend of Naruto is, I already approve of him since Sakura did say that the Hokage said it himself that he is good friends with Naruto. That's enough for me. Shikamaru spoke, longer than normal, but he only did when he was making a point. Niji, Hinata, Choji, and Shino understood immediately, while the rest took a little while to process what the strategist just shared. Well, if SS Sakura-san said that NN Naruto is GG good friends with a ninja from Sand, then it's FF fine with me too. Hinata said, trying hard to control her stutter when it came to talking about Naruto. They all knew that she had a huge crush on the blonde, only Naruto was oblivious to it. Oh, there's another thing. Sakura remembered how Naruto spoke. We introduced each other when our sensei came and Naruto was using words that even I didn't recognize. I didn't have time to go to the library and the dictionary I have at home is small and limited. Sakura said, which made Niji and Shikamaru raise their brows. Naruto used big words. And what words did he use, Sakura? Tenten asked and got nods from the rest. Sakura tried her best to remember what they were. Well, he used the word connize, ostentate and cacophonic during introduction. And today he used lackadaisical and opulent. She said and Shikamaru snorted in amusement while Niji hid his smirk behind his bowl of rice. The rest looked clueless and Kiba looked like he was having mental bleeding after the third word was given. Connize means being aware of a fact or a specific piece of information. Niji said as he lowered his now empty bowl. Sounds of awe were heard from the others. Can you tell us how he used the rest of those words? Shino spoke up and Sakura nodded. Naruto used the word ostentate when he said that he tend to disfavor those who attempt to ostentate skills and talents that should be noticed by others on their own accord and not by pointing it out by themselves. She explained and this time Shikamaru answered. Ostentate means to display proudly or act pretentiously. And before any one of you ask, cacophonic means having unpleasant sounds. But I can already guess that Naruto meant that someone was being too loud or making annoying and unnecessary noise. Sakura and Ino both blushed hard knowing well now that it was directed at them, Sakura mostly since she was on the same team as Naruto. Well, how about that lack of whatever word and opulent? Kiba asked. It's lackadaisical. It's another term for someone who is slow. And it's opulent not opulent. And it means use is nearly the same as ostentate. Someone who is superior or acts superior. And no doubt this was aimed for Uchiha. It suits him. Niji commented as he drank his tea while Choji and Kiba laughed. Shikamaru snorted while the rest sans Ino and Sakura chuckled lightly. I think it's safe to say that Naruto has been hiding a great deal of himself. With just his words alone, I don't think he's as stupid as he showed everyone. He obviously isn't weak at all. Tenten said and got nods from the others. Niji was already thinking of verifying for himself if Naruto really was as different as Sakura made the blonde to be. After a few more minutes, Niji reminded Hinata that she had lessons still and that they should return to their compound soon. The heiress nodded and then both bid everyone goodbye before leaving the restaurant. Hinata went to her lessons while Niji decided to walk around the village. Not because he hoped that he'd run into Naruto and the guest. Not at all. He just thought he'd walked around since he didn't really have much else to do. And as he was nearing the village square, he could see the head with blonde hair with someone who had red hair standing around the square while the blonde was pointing at a few stores to the redhead. To Niji's surprise, he saw Naruto smiling and laughing so carefree with the other, as if nothing was wrong with the world. Never before had he seen Naruto laugh or even smile the way he did that moment. It was as if Naruto had finally taken off a mask that he wore in front of everyone for some reason, simply because he was with someone who knew him well. Naruto turned and saw Niji, smiled and waved at him. "Hey Niji." Naruto greeted the other with a bright smile that Niji couldn't help but return a smile back. "Hello Naruto. We heard from Sakura that you have a temporary team member." She was telling Ino and everyone else just happened to run into each other. Niji said and the other two chuckled. "No surprise there. Niji, this is my good friend Gaara. He's from Sunagakur. Gaara, this is Hyuga Niji. One of the best fighters and level-headed genins to have graduate this year." Naruto praised which made Niji blush slightly. Naruto missed it, but Gaara saw it and smirked. "Hello, Hyuga-san." Gaara said and nodded his head as greeting and Niji nodded back. His skills with his clan's techniques and his skills in using their Byakugan is very estimable, Gaara. Naruto praised some more, which just made Niji blush some more. Gaara finally laughed a bit which made Naruto look at his friend in confusion. "Did I say something funny?" Naruto asked, obviously oblivious to how Niji looked. "It's not because you were saying something funny, Naruto. If you keep praising him, I worry if his face goes a deeper shade of red as his is also sporting." Gaara explained, and Naruto turned to Niji who indeed got redder when Gaara pointed out that he was red-faced at the moment. However, it seemed that Naruto was still Naruto and was not on the same wavelength as Gaara and Niji were. "Oh my Kami-sama. Niji, are you alright? Are you feeling okay? Are you having a fever? You should be resting and not walking about if so." Naruto fired question after question and actually scolded Niji who just wanted the ground to open up that moment and swallow him. Gaara was not helping since the redhead was laughing at Naruto, who was worrying for Niji. Niji reassured Naruto that he was fine and excused himself as he said that he needed to head back to the Hyuga compound for some chore. The Hyuga didn't even wait to hear Naruto bid him goodbye and just ran off. As he made his way back to the compound, Niji had verified for himself that Naruto indeed had been hiding his true self. Niji smiled as he realized that he got to see a part of the real Naruto that day, even if it was brief. "Do you think Niji is really fine? He was acting a bit weird," Naruto said with a worried tone which made Gaara laugh once more. Naruto didn't bother to ask Gaara why he was laughing this time and just shrugged. They continued with the tour of the village until they ran into Shikamaru who was just leaving the Akimichi restaurant. "Hey Shikamaru." Naruto called out happily as he led Gaara closer to the other. "Hey Naruto. And this must be the new temporary member then. Sakura told us earlier. Really, that girl is so troublesome. Kept saying unnecessary things the whole while." Shikamaru grumbled which made Naruto chuckle. "Yes, this is Gaara from Sunagakur. Gaara, this is Nara Shikamaru. He's one of the best strategists of this genin batch. He's smart and loves to play shogi. Don't challenge him. He'll win under 3 minutes." Naruto said as he grumbled the last part which made Gaara smirk and Shikamaru chuckle. "Only if it's you, Naruto. Lee actually lasts 7 minutes when he challenges me." The Nara teased and Naruto grumbled something about fuzzy brows. "Whatever, I never really liked shogi though it's fun watching you play against Niji. You guys take forever to end." Naruto shared and got another chuckle from Shikamaru. "Well it's Niji we're talking about." Naruto nodded at the comment. "True. Gaara, I told you earlier that Niji was one of the level-headed ones who graduated right. Shikamaru here is a genius. He comes off as a bit feignant and an insouciant, but his mind is amazing." Naruto praised Shikamaru who blushed at the compliment. Gaara couldn't help but smirk just a bit more. Naruto still had that ability to get under people's skins, in a good way of course, without even trying. "Well, I'm sure that I'll see his skills while I'm here." Gaara simply said and got an enthusiastic nod from Naruto. Shikamaru was blushing and trying his best to kill down the hotness that was creeping into his face. Naruto was praising him to his friend and he was stunned that Naruto actually saw past the laziness that everyone else saw, except for Choji of course. And as he thought about Naruto's choice of words, Sakura had been honest when she told them that Naruto had been using uncommon words. Feignant. Insouciant. Just how expanded was Naruto's vocabulary? Shikamaru didn't think of using such words himself. Too troublesome when most people in their village wouldn't probably know the meaning if he did. "Well, I'll see you both around. I better get home or else my mom would yell at me again for ditching chores." Shikamaru said as bid the other two a goodbye. Naruto had gained Shikamaru's respect when they were still in the academy. The blonde's determination and his capacity to forgive people was astounding. Even if the villagers were nasty to him, Naruto still wanted to protect them. In his book, Naruto was a saint that should only exist in fairy tales. But he was real, and Shikamaru had been praised by this blonde saint. "Alright then. We'll see you around, Shika. Naruto waved happily, and Gaara nodded. Shikamaru was glad that he already turned his back and just gave Naruto a wave as he walked off. That way, Naruto wouldn't see the deeper blush that Shikamaru had on his face now. When the two were left alone, Naruto turned to Gaara with a narrowed look. When you mentioned earlier about me not having Neji and Shika as teammates, you were not really referring to them as just teammates, were you? He asked carefully, and Gaara simply smirked at the blonde. Maybe not, who knows what I actually meant, Naruto. I used them both earlier as example to the Uchiha and the useless one because I remember that both of them were the best of your group the first time around. Yes, you have that Taijutsu specialist, the weapon specialist, and 2 trackers, but the Hyuga and the Nara were more skilled and intelligent than the rest. Gaara said as he praised and covered his tracks, knowing well that Naruto would still not get the hint. Oh, okay then. Let's go and see Iruka-sensei. I want you to meet him. Naruto said with a bubbly tone. Gaara was right, and Shukaku was already laughing inside him, no doubt the Kyuubi was laughing as well. Naruto was not only adorable, strong, had a heart of gold, but his naivety was really just as outstanding. Even with a second chance, Naruto was still dense when it came to matters of the heart and feelings. And it was one thing Gaara knew that the rest would come to love, if they don't love it already, about the ball of sunshine. The next day, as promised, Kakashi had a line-up of D-rank missions around the village. To make the list vanish faster, he paired the 4 up and gave them 2 tasks each. Sasuke and Sakura were to weed out Old Man Sanji's garden and paint Lord Nayu's fence. Gaara and Naruto were to catch Tora and clean Old Lady Nami's basement. Normally, this would have been a good idea. However, Sasuke didn't like the fact that he would be stuck with just Sakura the whole time, and the dope was off with the redhead. Sasuke still hated the fact that those two could create solid clones before he did. He tried to convince his brother and Shisui to teach him, but both refused and told him to ask his Jounin sensei if he really wanted to learn. As they were in the middle of weeding the garden, it occurred to Sasuke that the other two would most definitely be using clones to make their works faster. If Sasuke only knew how right he was. Catching Tora had not taken long since Gaara used his sand to capture the cat. The cat had behaved after Naruto glared at the cat with red eyes. To say the least, the cat never attempted to leave its residence ever again. And to get the basement cleaned up faster, both created 2 clones each and finished sorting out the contents that had been dumped there. Old Lady Nami had even prepared them a pitcher of juice when they came up an hour later, telling her that the whole place is clean and organized. They told her that they had found hundreds of old photos and had placed them inside an old trunk for her to look over when she had time. They also had changed the light bulb to make sure that it would be brighter, fixed the stairs, and got rid of all the rats that were residing there. The lady couldn't believe that they did more than what she had asked for and smiled at them. She had heard about how the other villagers treated Naruto and felt bad that they all hated him. Well, luckily, she wasn't one of them. Old Nami asked if they could bring the trunk of pictures up so she could look at them while they were still there. Since they didn't have anything else to do, they decided to stay. And old Nami had told them stories about the pictures that she had to them. Naruto and Gaara laughed lightly when she told them about her late husband, Zoro, and the many misadventures they both had when they were teenagers. None of them noticed that they had spent the whole afternoon away until Kakashi came to fetch the other two when the office said that both had not returned from their last task. I'm sure those who aren't even finished yet. Sakura said as she sneered behind the Jounin. Nami wanted to hit the girl with her cane but knew a better way to make the rude girl shut her mouth. Oh no, on the contrary, they had finished up an hour after they started. They had done more than just clean my basement really. They had told me that they found old photos of mine and I had them bring it up. I made them juice and told them stories about the old photos they have found for me. I am very grateful to those two to have returned my treasures to me. Nami told Kakashi and the other two. Sakura dropped her jaw. Everyone knew old lady Nami had way too much things in her basement. But Naruto and Gaara finished in an hour. They probably made clones for sure. And that was cheating. She smirked to herself when the two boys came out. If you both have nothing to do tomorrow after, come over again and I'll tell you about the time when Sanji tried to challenge Zoro in running but ended up tripping before he could even speak his challenge. She told Naruto and Gaara, who nodded with a smile. When the whole group was walking towards the assignment office, Sakura spoke up. You both cheated and made clones to work faster. She said with a smug voice. Both Sasuke and Kakashi knew it was a bad move. Cheated? I didn't know that we weren't allowed to make sure we end our task faster. Gaara said as he turned to Naruto. It's not really cheating. She says it is because she can't do it. Most probably, if she attempts to even make one, she would pass out for sure. Naruto said as he smiled at Gaara. Sakura was not angry and red in the face. How dare Naruto insult her? She made a move to punch him but was stopped by Naruto herself and slammed not only her face but her whole body to the ground this time. I warned you before, didn't I? Attack me and I would not hesitate to kill you at all. I would think you are an enemy nin and will not even give you time to attempt any form of explanation. This will be your final warning, Haruno Sakura. Next time, I will not be so lenient on you. Naruto said with a cheerful tone and smile before starting to walk again with Gaara by his side. Kakashi sighed and knew that Naruto was trying his best to not lose his temper. Sasuke gaped at the retreating Naruto for a few moments before turning to help Sakura get back on her feet. You idiot. It seems that you didn't learn anything the first time he slammed you down. I'm warning you, do it again and I won't even stop him from killing you, you worthless kunoichi. Sasuke hissed at her before following his sensei who had began walking after Naruto and Gaara while he stuck his nose in his damn book. Sakura had tears on her eyes. Not only did Naruto threaten to kill her if she stepped out of line one more time, but both her sensei and Sasuke didn't seem to care. And Sasuke called her useless. She was limping as her back and legs hurt when Naruto slammed her to the ground. She had totally forgotten about the incident because she was angry that Naruto was so blunt in pointing out that she wouldn't be able to even make a clone. After making their report, Sasuke went home while Kakashi went with Naruto and Gaara to Ichiraku's. Sakura walked home alone and cried herself to sleep after having a quick dinner. She was mentally slapping herself for ruining a good day by opening her mouth and attempting to hit Naruto. She vowed to watch herself lest she end up dead. For 3 weeks, Team 7 had done D-rank missions and training. Kyuubi did his best to keep his thoughts away from Naruto when he felt Isobu coming. The future Mizukage was fast approaching and wondered how he'd greet Naruto. As the sun rose up, Naruto shifted on his bed only to feel that he was no longer alone. He knew that Gaara was beside him, but the body next to him felt smaller somehow. Slowly, he blinked his eyes open and turned to whoever was beside him. It took a while before Naruto's mind processed the information and fact that Yugura was sleeping in between him and Gaara. Speaking of Gaara, Naruto looked and saw that the redhead wasn't there. And before he could move to get up, the bathroom door opened and Gaara stepped out with nothing but a white towel on. Naruto tried to hold back from the delectable sight in front of him. I see you're awake. Be careful not to wake the sleeping one. He came about 2 hours ago by the way. He was so exhausted. Yugura must have spent 3 days running non-stop to get here. Gaara said as he pulled out some clothes of Naruto to wear. He was feeling a bit lazy to go and get his own at the other end of the bedroom. He pulled out a white shirt that had Naruto's family symbol at the back. And since Gaara had always been on the feminine side, Naruto's shirt was a bit too loose on him. He wore the shirt and went to his own bag to pull out underwear and pants. And as Gaara was torturing Naruto, the said blonde was trapped in bed with the sleeping Jinchuriki of the three-tailed demon turtle. Naruto then shifted slowly to get out so he could use the bathroom and after a few minutes, he successfully got free and ran to piss. He proceeded to shower while he was there and 10 minutes later, he was out, got dressed and gave Gaara a morning kiss. Should we make breakfast while he sleeps? I'm sure he'd be hungry when he wakes. Gaara suggested as he placed a quick peck on Naruto's lips that curled upward. Naruto held Gaara's hand as he led them out his bedroom and went to the kitchen. In the middle of his cooking, Kakashi came and gave Naruto a warm kiss on the forehead. Naruto smiled at the man. I brought eggs and bacon. Kakashi said as he gave Naruto the plastic bag he was carrying. Please set the table for 4 then. Gaara, check if Yugura is awake. If not, wake him. Naruto said and both nodded. When Gaara went to the bedroom, Kakashi turned to Naruto with a raised brow. And who is Yugura? Naruto smiled. Yugura is the three-tailed demon turtle's Jinchuriki. He is also the next potential Mizukage. Naruto told Kakashi who looked surprised. And he is here because? Naruto shrugged this time. I'm not really sure why he's here. Gaara told me that Yugura arrived 2 hours ago while I was asleep. I woke up with him asleep next to me. Gaara had showered then when I woke up and told me. Naruto explained and got a nod from Kakashi. Cooking breakfast had breezed through and now they were just waiting for Gaara and Yugura to come out. When they did, a small childlike boy came out, rubbing his eyes and yawned. Naruto smiled and chuckled. Good morning, sleepyhead. Did you like your rest? Naruto asked with a smile. Yugura pouted and sat next to Naruto and laid his head on Naruto's lap. I could have slept longer. But the smell of breakfast was too good to resist. Yugura said and got chuckles from Gaara and Naruto. It was just then that Yugura noticed that it weren't just them. He sat up instantly and glared at the one-eyed Jounin. Yugura, this is Hada Kakashi. Jounin sensei of Team 7. Gaara and I are on Team 7. Kakashi, like I explained earlier, this is Yugura. Kakashi nodded. Yugura stayed quiet for a bit before pouting. How come Gaara is on your team? He is from Suna, right? Yugura asked and Naruto nodded. You're right. But Gaara is staying here until he is needed back in Suna. To keep him busy and somewhat entertained, the Hokage decided to place him on my team while he's here. This caused Yugura to pout further. So, if I ask the Hokage later after I give him the message scroll from Kurigakure and he approves, I can be on your team too. Yugura asked seriously once more. Kakashi's sweat dropped, but Naruto just smiled. If he approves. But aren't you supposed to be a Kiri with your own team? Naruto asked curiously. Gaara hid his face behind the bowl in front of him. Gaara chuckled as he began to eat as well. Naruto and Kakashi had a feeling that their day was going to be long. Gaara, despite being mature than most, acted like a child with it stunned Kakashi a bit when Naruto explained that like him being the nine-tailed demon fox and Gaara being the three-tailed demon turtle, Gaara was like them too. Inside Gaara was the one-tailed demon Tanuki, and Kakashi was even more surprised when Naruto told him that there were others like them. This made the Jounin wonder how Naruto met them when he was sure that the blonde had never left the village before. And as expected by Naruto, Gaara and Kakashi, Gaara asked the Hokage to stay with Naruto as well. The old man sighed in frustration. The message scroll told Hiruzen that Gaara was to stay in Konoha for the next 3 months and under Naruto's supervision. It seemed that, no matter how mature a child can be, they would still be that, a child. Gaara had thrown a tantrum just to get the Mizukage to let him go. Kakashi, I'm really sorry, but you will have to have another temporary member. The message says that Gaara is to stay with Naruto and be watched by him. But it seems that it's not a bother to Naruto. Sarutobi said as he smirked at Naruto who was holding a happy Gaara. Naruto shook his head. I don't mind. But I would need more jobs if Gaara and Gaara stay with me. I do need to feed them. Naruto said and Sarutobi chuckled. The Mizukage is paying you Naruto to watch Gaara for the next 3 months. So you don't have to worry about money for food. And I'll be sending Guy with Lee later to give you an additional bed for your guest. I'm sure Gaara would stay with you and all. He told Naruto who nodded. Thank you, Sarutobi Jiji. Naruto said and smiled. The old man already knew that before him were Jinchurikis and that all three would be under one roof. But before Sarutobi could speak again, the door opened and Naruto, Gaara and Gaara turned to see a very angry Utakata standing there. You cheater. You left in the dead of night to get here before me. The brown-haired male said as he glared at Gaara who was clinging on to Naruto whose sweat dropped. Since they had a second chance, Utakata had killed his sensei, Harasum, and both he and Gaara had told the Mizukage that they would like to be placed on the same team and be left alone. They didn't have a Jounin as a sensei, but it assured the Mizukage it was alright. Besides, with 2 Jinchurikis in one team, no sensei would last long. Utakata gave Sarutobi a message scroll, and the old man had a feeling that he already knew what was inside. 10 seconds into reading the new scroll, he sighed. He was right. Well, it seems that Naruto will have not one but 2 guests aside from Gaara. The Mizukage also sends you Naruto Gaara's teammate, Utakata. Sarutobi tried to explain but stopped when the taller male had wrapped his arms around Naruto, pulling him away from Gaara. You really didn't think I'd let you hog Naruto-sama all to yourself, did you? Utakata glared at Gaara who crossed his arms and pouted. Naruto sighed, Gaara snickered, and Kakashi stared. Was this Utakata part of the 3 Gaara had spoken to him about? He hoped not. Sarutobi Jiji, I'm sure you know what we are, right? The old man nodded. Well, Kakashi-sensei knows as well. Naruto said as he then turned to his sensei/secret lover, to the village at least. Sensei, Utakata is the 6-tailed demon slug. As you can probably tell by now, he is also from Kiri. He and Gaara are like brothers to me. And I hope that you won't mind having them around for a while. Naruto said with a tone that was pleading for the man to please just say yes. Kakashi turned to Gaara who just smirked. He knew that the redhead knew that Kakashi would give in for sure. The silver-haired Jounin sighed and dropped his head. I don't mind having them around, Naruto. As long as you keep them both in check and they don't cause trouble. If they do, it would be on you. Kakashi said calmly and got a thankful smile from his beloved blonde. A few more instructions like Sarutobi telling Naruto that he'd be sending 6 new Futons and have Guy and Lee just take out Naruto's bed to make room since Naruto didn't want to leave his apartment at all. Naruto, Gaara, Utakata and Gaara thanked the Hokage before following the Jounin out the office and out the building. Alright, officially, both are under you Naruto and not me, so they aren't really part of Team 7. But if they come along, they will be expected to participate in whatever missions and trainings we do. Understood? Kakashi asked and Naruto nodded. Good, come to the bridge in 2 hours and we'll start the D-rank missions then. It'll give you time to show them around a bit before we do our tasks. He told Naruto once more before vanishing. Naruto knew that Kakashi didn't like the situation at all. It was one thing to have Gaara there, but to have Utakata and Gaara with him as well was just killing his Naruto time like hell. Alright you two, let's go back to the apartment to leave Utakata's things and prepare for the Futons to arrive. Naruto instructed and the 3 nodded and followed Naruto back to the blonde's home. 2 hours later, Naruto, Gaara, and Utakata arrived at the bridge. Sasuke was already there and so was Sakura. Gaara and Utakata glared at the other 2 who one glared back while the other took a step back. Enough you two. Those are my teammates. Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura. Both of you, these are Gaara and Utakata, shinobis from Kurigakure. They will be here for the next 3 months and will be staying with me. So, to keep the peace, if you have nothing good to say to each other, don't say anything at all. Naruto said with a smile on his face that made Sakura shiver. Sasuke merely nodded and shrugged. Kakashi came and told them that they would be doing a C-rank mission that day. Naruto looked at Kakashi in surprise. He knew that it was roughly about this time that they escorted Tazuna to the Wave Country. They would be leaving in 3 days, so they were to pack for at least a week's worth of supplies. Till they leave, they would not be doing D-rank missions. Will they be going with you, Naruto? Kakashi asked and got a nod. I won't be leaving them in my apartment alone and unsupervised. Both of them can't cook and might end up poisoning themselves if they attempted. Worst case scenario, they'd burn down the apartment. They will come and they might end up useful to help train Sasuke and Sakura with chakra control. Despite how young they both look, both of them have done about 156 D rank missions, 48 C ranks, 29 B ranks, and 9 A rank missions all in all. Naruto praised the two who beamed at him. Sasuke gaped at the information. Those weak-looking ninjas had done A rank missions already, and how come Naruto knows them? This was not making Sasuke's day any better. Not at all. A few more words from Kakashi and he dismissed them. And before he vanished, he told Naruto that he'd be coming over for dinner. Naruto simply chuckled as he placed a peck on Kakashi's cheek before the man left. Truly, it amazed Naruto how patient Kakashi was with him. At the moment, he was in the body of a 12-year-old boy. And Kakashi was about 25 to 28. The man was obviously sexually frustrated. How he dealt with it the first time, Naruto didn't want to know, but he just smiled. Just after lunch, Guy and Lee came with the Futons and were introduced properly to Gaara, Utakata, and Yugura. To say that the three were stunned was an understatement. Guy and Lee's antics made the three step back and hide behind Naruto a bit, even Gaara. The redhead did not see this side of Lee before when he met the green jumpsuit Taijutsu master during the Chunin exams. And now that he had met him on a lighter setting, Gaara felt that he would have wanted to have met Lee at the Chunin exams instead. But what was done is done. After a few youthful words from Guy, Naruto and the others sighed in relief when both green jumpsuit wearing pair left. Those two scare me with their youthfulness. Yugura said as he shivered lightly. Utakata nodded as well before he clung to Naruto once more. Let's go out and see the village, Naruto-sama. He whined and both Naruto and Gaara chuckled before nodding. Again, it did not shock Naruto and Gaara when the rest of the Rookie 12 found out about Naruto's additional guests. Gaara noticed how Neji and Shikamaru kept glaring at Utakata, who was being way too close to Naruto for their liking. Gaara didn't have a problem with it since he knew that those two were like brothers to Naruto and nothing more. So the whole silent jealousy the other two were having entertained Gaara so much. He wondered though how the last one would appear and make his presence known to Naruto. Yugura had taunted Utakata and was now running around to stay away from the Seiken Jinchuriki, while Naruto sighed. They all had a lovely picnic at Naruto's favorite training ground with everyone sans Sasuke, which did not surprise everyone. Naruto was reading a scroll that he had accidentally packed while the rest were talking amongst each other. Gaara sat quietly beside Naruto who was reading while Yugura was still running from Utakata. The rest of the Rookie 12 were amused by the running shinobis. "Ah, Naruto-sama. Help. Utakata won't stop throwing rocks at me." Yugura yelled and Naruto didn't even look up from his reading. "Utakata, stop throwing rocks at Yugura," he said in a fatherly kind of tone. But he started it. Utakata defended as he kept throwing rocks at Yugura who dodged them. "Yugura, stop taunting Utakata." Naruto spoke again and the rest couldn't help but snicker. Gaara noticed that both Neji and Shikamaru relaxed now. He was sure that both got the message that the two guests were like family to Naruto and didn't hold any romantic feelings for the blonde. After a few more minutes, Naruto finished reading the scroll and kept it in the bag Gaara had brought with him. Yugura and Utakata finally exhausted themselves and went to sleep on Naruto's lap. Gaara smiled a bit as he moved a bit to make room of Yugura to sleep peacefully in. "Naruto, who are they exactly?" Shikamaru asked and everyone waited for Naruto to answer. Naruto looked down at the sleeping ninjas on his lap and smiled a bit. "They are like the family I never had. Somewhat they are like me. Outcast of their village and hated for reasons that was beyond their control. I lost my innocence when I realized that the longer I try to pretend I didn't see what was in front of me, the longer I'd condemn myself to a life of darkness. Gaara, Utakata, and Yugura are like my family. Along with 5 others, we would be the strangest yet the perfect family. We know how each other feels because we know who we are. We know the sacrifices that we do in order to keep our villages alive and sleep peacefully at night. We know, even if others don't, how hard it is to be who we are simply because most don't want to understand that what we do is more dangerous than of a dozen SSS rank missions put together," he said with a voice that broke everyone. They all watched as Naruto ran his fingers through the hairs of the 2 sleeping ninjas on his lap. It was like he was a very proud father and an overprotective brother at the same time. Gaara who sat near Naruto looked like the supportive wife. It was strange, yet they slowly began to understand that the Naruto they all got used to was nothing but a mask to hide who he really was in order to survive in a village of hateful people. "Why did you want to become a ninja, Naruto?" Lee asked, shocking everyone with the deep and curious tone he used. Naruto stopped what he was doing and was in deep thought. In his first life, he would have answered that it was to protect the people of Konoha. But as he grew up, all the lies, hate, and harm that the villagers plus the council had dumped on him just made him snapped. Now he had a second chance to do everything differently. "I became a ninja to show everyone that I am not who they think I am. I fight to protect those who are like me, shunned by their own people, and left to fight for their own survival. Truly, I have little care for Konoha as a whole. Little holds me here and yet I cannot leave. I have people I want to protect even if it means I have to die just to make sure they live. The villagers, the council, they are my enemies. They took everything from me. They made my life a living hell, and I cannot wait to see them burn in hell for their crimes," Naruto said with a hardened voice before he sighed. "Why do the people hate you so much, Naruto?" Shino asked and everyone held their breath. Naruto stiffened a bit until Gaara placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "If they are your friends as they claim, they will understand," he told him, and Naruto gave him a weak smile. "What I'm about to tell you is an S-rank secret that no one aside from the Jounins, the Hokage, and the Anbu know. Only the Hokage and I are allowed to tell others since the secret involves me and the Hokage is the Hokage." He began and everyone took a few moments before they nodded, even Sakura. 12 years ago, Konoha was attacked by a very powerful creature called the Kitsune no Kyuubi. He had killed many ninjas and villains before the Yondaime, Namikaze Minato, managed to seal the Kyuubi and relieved the village of the threat. However, since the Kyuubi was a very powerful source of chakra, no object could hold it. It had to be sealed inside a living being. Everyone gasped. The Yondaime, despite his reluctance, sealed the Kyuubi into a newborn child, his own son. On the 10th of October, Minato had sealed the Kyuubi inside the newborn baby that was given to him by his wife, Kushina, who had died at childbirth. The seal the Yondaime used was powerful and needed every ounce of chakra, so once the seal was finished, the Yondaime had also died, leaving his son to the hands of the Sandaime to be taken care of. However, many things did not go as planned. 12 years ago, many had loved their loved ones and wanted to blame someone for it. And despite the Yondaime's wish that the villagers see his son as a hero that kept the Kyuubi at bay, they saw him as the demon itself and hated his very existence. Naruto stopped and took a deep breath. Neji and Shikamaru had already pieced the puzzle in their heads since they had researched everything they could about the village's reason to hate Naruto. "And how are you involved in all of this?" asked Chaoji, who had stopped eating. However, it was neither Naruto nor Gaara who answered. "The Yondaime's son and the vessel of the Kitsune no Kyuubi is Uzumaki Naruto," Neji said. "Or should we call you, Namikaze Naruto, the honorable son?" Shikamaru added. "How?" Naruto asked. "On my own, I had often wondered why the villagers seemed to hate your guts. My father would never tell me and it became troublesome as the years went by. Recently, when you started to change a bit, I came to a decision that it was about time I began to find the answers on my own. It took time, effort, and despite how troublesome it was, I dug up old scrolls that even mentioned anything about the incident. You were born on October 10th, 12 years ago and on the same day as the Yondaime had done his deed. It didn't take long for me to add the pieces of information I had," Shikamaru explained, and Naruto turned to Neji. "Nearly the same as him. However, the Hyuga clan had many personal scrolls that spoke more of details that involved the incident. Only thing I needed was confirmation. And you gave us that today. And believe me, I cannot and will not hate you if you ever decide to leave this village. I had read the scrolls of my clan and it makes me feel sick that they could harm you the way they did. I came across a few that spoke of the Uchiha clan physically hurting you to the point that you would be left lying in your own pool of blood." Neji told his side as he fisted his hands in anger. Everyone else was shocked. Who would have known that Naruto, the goofy boy that many hated, had been through hell and back again for the people to keep living their lives in peace. Sakura was now beginning to see how wrong she was about Naruto. The boy who always smiled like nothing was wrong had been sacrificing his whole life for the ungrateful villagers and he still did not kill them when he obviously had the power to do so. To everyone's surprise, including Naruto and Gaara, Sakura stood up with tears in her eyes and hugged Naruto from behind. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Naruto." She kept chanting it over and over again as she cried. The rest could understand Sakura's regret and guilt for all the things she had done. They all had been only a little less guilty than her. They had not done anything to help Naruto much, but they all were already vowing to change it now. Naruto smiled as he touched Sakura's arms around his neck. "It's alright, Sakura-chan, you didn't know. It was kept and you listened to what your parents tell you about me because that is what children do. They listen and obey their parents. You are a good daughter. And you are now on your way to becoming a better friend." He reassured her, which made Sakura sob harder. Utakata and Yugura woke up for a bit, but Gaara moved them with his sand to his side and rocked them to sleep once more. Naruto shifted so he could hug Sakura better and stop her tears. Everyone was near the brink of tears. Naruto with his big heart forgave Sakura for everything she did and still saw them as his friends. Ino had been just as mean to Naruto and she ran to hold him too. Naruto smiled as he held Ino with one arm as he rocked both girls back and forth. Akamaru, being the small dog that he was, ran and jumped into Sakura's arms and was rocked back and forth along. You guys are the ones that hold me here. The only reason I stay is because I want to protect all of you and make sure that you all keep on living and have families of your own someday. No matter what happens, I will make sure that you all are alive and well. He told them as he looked up and smiled at the rest. And we vowed to make sure to stay alive and keep you alive as well, Naruto. Shino spoke and everyone else nodded. It had been a very stressful yet informative afternoon. It was now nearing sunset and Lee carried the sleeping Sakura home. Choji took Ino and everyone bid Naruto, Gaara, Utakata and Yugura goodbye. All except Neji and Shikamaru. Gaara already knew that this was the moment they would tell Naruto, so he took the still sleepy turtle and slug demon Jinchuricus and headed back to Naruto's apartment first. Is there something you both need? Naruto asked, pretending to not know anything. The other two looked at each other for a second, then turned to Naruto. Naruto, Shikamaru and I had spoken earlier and we both know that we both have feelings for you that goes beyond friendship. That being said, we would like to ask you if you would allow us to court you properly. Neji asked, worried about what Naruto would say. Shikamaru was not faring any better. Believe it or not, I already knew this would happen sooner or later. The Kyuubi was hinting about it and told me that I would need people to be there for me and I would be there for them. However, I have to tell you that as the Kitsune no Kyuubi's vessel, I require more than just one partner to appease my animalistic needs. Naruto blushed as he looked away from them. The two geniuses blinked a few times before smirking. So, does that mean that Neji and I have to share you? Shikamaru asked as he moved closer to Naruto who only nodded. Who else? Neji asked as he moved closer as well. PG Gaara and Kakashi-sensei, Naruto answered, nearly forgetting how to breathe since the other two were far too close. Both were a bit stunned when Naruto mentioned the Jounin, but they didn't mind. As long as they wouldn't lose Naruto, it was better than nothing. Neji was fist to capture Naruto's lips while Shikamaru trailed kisses on Naruto's neck. Both were melt Naruto and the blonde's knees gave up on him. Both chuckled as they caught him. Naruto looked so adorable when he was flushed. After Shikamaru kissed Naruto deeply as well, both boys walked Naruto home to make sure that nothing happened to him. When they got to the apartment, Gaara was nearly done cooking dinner and Kakashi was setting the table for 7 people. Gaara had already filled him in on the events that happened earlier that after and Kakashi knew that with Naruto, the Hyuga and the Nara would fall for his natural charms as well. Yugura and Utakata ran to Naruto and hugged him. Look. 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 Naruto-sama. Kashi-san brought us this pudding things. Yugura exclaimed happily. Did both of you have dessert before dinner? Both stopped jumping and moved back and hid behind the one-eyed Jounin whose sweat dropped. You gave them sweets before dinner, didn't you, Kakashi? Naruto asked, already knowing the answer. I did tell him you would not like it. Gaara said as he came out with 2 plates and placed them on the table. He looked smug. Naruto sighed and entered his apartment. It was getting smaller since there were 7 people inside it. He knew that with Neji and Shikamaru in the mix now, he needed a bigger place to house them all. There was no doubt in Naruto's mind that the rest would want to stay close as much as they could. As they all sat down to have dinner, Kakashi, Neji and Shikamaru were trying to adjust to the fact that they were all in love with Naruto and it took all of them to keep Naruto satisfied. The Kyuubi was indeed powerful to have 4 lovers to satisfy its needs. Naruto knew that he didn't have to tell Kakashi about what happened that afternoon since Gaara would have already told him. And luckily, Utakata and Yugura were still tired, both saying that they weren't. Gaara had told them to go and shower and get ready for bed. Naruto stressed out to the two that they had traveled for days with little to no rest just to reach Konoha faster. To placate them, he promised to take them out again so they could buy supplies for their mission in 3 days. And before the two could protest, they yawned and Naruto chuckled. Gaara, Kakashi, Neji and Shikamaru watched as Naruto tucked the 2 other Jinchurikis and turned the lights off and closed the door. The table had been cleaned while the Kirinins were bathing and Naruto prepared the futons for them to rest in. Neji had made them tea and they all sat back around the dining table. The silence was not awkward, but it spoke on an unspoken question that 3 wanted to ask. With a neat sigh, Neji broke the silence which relieved Kakashi and Shikamaru. Naruto, you mentioned earlier that you need more than one, right? Is it us 4? Naruto turned to Neji first, then to Gaara who knew the answer better. Naruto does not know, but I do. I know and can feel it because of Shukaku and the fact that I was the first. And all in all, there are 5 of us. The last one is close, yet he does not know how to make his presence known. I won't tell who it is, just like how I did not tell Naruto about you and Shikamaru. That person will have to decide for himself, but I already know that all he needs is time and the right situation to say what he needs to. Gaara explained, then took a long sip of his tea. Shikamaru began to think of who were the possible candidates like Kakashi, while Neji just sighed before he smiled. Neji came to realize as he embraced his feelings for the blonde, he would also be embracing the rest of Naruto's family, which obviously included the two Kirinins and Iruka-sensei, who was like an older brother to Naruto. He could hazard a guess that the rest of Naruto's family were the other Jinchuricas as well. Neji could already foresee that when he, Shikamaru, Kakashi, and the last one would meet them, it would be very eventful. When the next morning came, Naruto was woken up by two excited people. Gaara had already woken up and made breakfast. Naruto obviously was the last one. Yugura and Utakata were told by Gaara and Kakashi to wake Naruto and get him to shower before he came out for breakfast. Neji had brought fresh bread and a small cake, while Shikamaru brought a carton of milk and juice for the group. It surprised Naruto when they all greeted him when he came out of the bedroom. "Naruto-sama. Neji-san brought us cake. It's chocolate with vanilla. Our favorite." Utakata cheered and Yugura did so as well. Gaara chuckled when he heard Utakata said it was their favorite. It was actually the Kirinin's favorite, but Naruto had made it into his favorite to make them feel happy. They all sat down and had a cheerful breakfast. Shikamaru started the conversation with a rant that last night, Asuma-summon had told him that they would be doing several D-rank missions that day. Neji then added that he and his team would have several D-rank missions also. They envied Gaara and Naruto a bit when Kakashi said that Team 7 had no mission for the next 2 more days. But they envied the 2 more when Kakashi added the reason why. "At least you guys can get out of the village. We're stuck here till we get C-rank missions as well." Neji complained a bit but had his head held high with dignity still. "Hyugas do not whine." Shikamaru said everything was troublesome and wished he'd get to just sleep the whole day off. Naruto chuckled until the Hokage's spider monkey came and told Kakashi that Sarutobi wanted him for something. The one-eyed Jounin sighed in frustration as he hoped that he'd get to spend the day with Naruto and the others. But no. He just had to be called. Naruto told the summon that Kakashi would be there after breakfast was over and the summon vanished. Neji and Shikamaru smirked as they felt a bit better when Kakashi wasn't spending the day with Naruto like them as well. When breakfast was over and the cake was gone, Kakashi placed a kiss on Naruto's forehead and bid everyone goodbye for the day and vanished. Neji and Shikamaru however kissed Naruto deeply before leaving for their separate team gatherings. But the dishes washed and the table cleaned, Naruto, Gaara, Utakata and Yugura left the apartment and headed out to see if there was anything that they would like to buy or have for dinner later on. Utakata and Yugura had never really been to Konoha even in the first life. Well, they never were there to look around and relax, that is. So they took this as an opportunity. Since remembering and coming back, Naruto had managed to change his life as soon as he could. He hinged into several people to buy everything he needed like clothes, kitchen utensils, ninja gears, and food. It had been useful and now, he didn't have to be someone else. But Naruto knew he had to keep the other 3 from killing the people who would dare harm him. Gaara entered a bookstore and the other 3 followed. However, as soon as the door closed and the shop owner saw Naruto, everything had happened so fast. "Get out of here, Yuta," the man stopped when a hand made of sand had gripped his throat. "Ere finish that sentence and I will bury you in sand," Gaara told the man as his eyes narrowed. Naruto had been busy with keeping Utakata and Yugura from making too much noise and running around the shop. Gaara then released the man and was shivering in fear. Gaara pulled Naruto with him to check out some cookbooks, while Utakata and Yugura approached the shivering man. "Be grateful that Naruto-sama does not wish you dead after your despicable actions. We would have no qualms in breaking you in half. Dare to harm Naruto-sama again and you will not wake the next morn," Yugura said coldly as he and Utakata went to the area when the other 2 were with a big smile on their face. The man behind the counter was already shivering in fear and knew that the day had come for the boy to have his revenge on the village. He had always known that sooner or later, the boy would snap and kill them all. And the day had come. Not only did the boy had a ninja that controlled sand, he had 2 others that were obviously from another village. And the 2 ninjas didn't look very kind at all. Naruto went to pay for the 3 books Gaara picked out. The man did not dare double the price lest he die early. "Good that you're learning fast. I have very little care for this village, and if push comes to shove and enemy nins overpower this village, do not expect me to save any of you. Worst case scenario, I might just unleash the power of the Kitsune no Kyuubi on you on my own. I trust me when I tell you, there won't be a trace of Konoha left when I'm through with all of you," he said with a cheerful smile that made the man cower in fright. With a huge smile on his face, Naruto left the bookshop and went to the supermarket to buy more food. Naruto knew that the people were looking at him and his companions, but before any of them could say anything, Kakashi came in. "Yo." He greeted the 4 who smiled when they saw him. Utakata and Yugura ran to him and gave him a hug before both ran further into the supermarket to pick out what they wanted. Naruto and Gaara chuckled when Kakashi looked a bit stunned. He knew the two Kirinins no more than 24 hours, and yet they treated him like they had known him for a long time. "What did the Hokage need of you, Kakashi-san?" Gaara asked when the man joined him and Naruto as they walked down the aisles to look over the things they needed and liked to purchase. "The Hokage just debriefed me about the mission to Wave. We'll be escorting the bridge builder back and make sure that the building of the bridge finishes in time." Kakashi told them, which made Naruto wonder a bit. The last time, the mission was just to escort. Now they had to wait for the bridge to be finished. "If it's an escort mission, do we have to wait till the bridge is finished?" Naruto asked. Kakashi scratched the back of his head as he picked out 6 packs of popcorn. "Well, we don't really have to stay, but from what I know of Wave Country, the Whirlpool Village used to be nearby. I hope that after the mission, we could go and see the remains of the village where the Uzumaki clan ruled. We might find something while we're there," he explained. Naruto wondered if the first time, this was what Kakashi wanted as well. However, he'd never know since the first time they were attacked and had to battle Zabuza, Haku, and Gato's men. The first pair they would be facing would be the Demon Brothers, and Naruto already knew that it would be easier this time around. Naruto turned to Kakashi and smiled. Now was not the right time to think about the mission in 2 days. He'll brief the other 3 after Kakashi, Neji, and Shikamaru leave. "Thank you for considering me, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said with a soft tone, and Kakashi smiled and patted his head softly. The Kiri pair then came running back with food on their arms and had pleading looks on their faces. Naruto bit his lower lip and knew he could not say no to them. "Only after dinner and not everything," he said, and they cheered. Gaara chuckled on his side as well as Kakashi. "You're too soft on them, Naruto," Gaara teased, and Naruto chuckled. "I'm not. I'm just considering the fact that we have never had a chance to be like this before. It's fine if it's just me. But I want you and the rest to have the chance to be free to do whatever you want with no repercussion," he said, and Gaara knew what Naruto meant and he had to agree. None of the Jinchurikis had the chance to be the way they are now during their first life. Naruto had given them the chance for a better life and they were taking it and making the best out of it since they knew that they won't have a second chance at all. The Kyuubi managed to pull off the jutsu, but it nearly cost him and Naruto all their energy. And thanks to the one chance, they weren't wasting it away. The other people in the supermarket were being very careful since there was a Joun in there and ninjas from other villages with the boy. If they did anything, they would be called before the Hokage, and nothing they say would make the man believe them, since there would be witnesses that would be against them. However, when Naruto and Gaara came to pay with the Kiri pair, their eyes were red and they were smirking. "How much for all of these?" Naruto asked with a malicious grin. The cashier was shaking to her bones as well as the others. One look and they knew their days were now numbered. The cashier and bagger rang up all the items as quickly as they could. They didn't want to die, and angering the 4 scary-looking ninjas would mean instant death. DT that would be BB 123,000 Ryo all in all, the cashier said with a trembling voice. The cashier came and instantly the 4 changed their eyes back to normal before he could see them. The Jounin gave Naruto his share since he picked out a few things as well and knew well that he'd be eating the food with them too. "Thank you, Kakashi-san," Gaara said, and they all carried a bag each. The Kiri pair pulled Kakashi out first, while Naruto and Gaara stayed back a bit. "Listen and listen well, you wastes of space. Dare to cross our paths like you all did before and I will make sure none of you live to see the rising sun. Just ask the man at the bookstore. He understood quite easily that I won't take your crap anymore," Naruto told them with his cheery voice and led Gaara out the supermarket happily. The people at the supermarket wondered if they ought to talk to the council. But then again, they knew that the boy would know it was them and would probably hunt them down. Now that the boy was a certified ninja, there was little to nothing they could do. Now they knew and understood that all their actions towards the boy were coming back to collect. As they walked towards Ichiraku's, Naruto and Gaara were talking to Kakashi and suggested that tomorrow and the day before their mission, they ought to train Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto pointed out that even if Gaara, Naruto, Utakata and Yugura were fighters, Sasuke and Sakura were the official members of Team 7 and needed to learn at least basic taijutsus and at least one simple ninjutsu, should they need it. Alright then. Can you ask Utakata and Yugura to spar with Sasuke and Sakura? To see just what they know and what taijutsu and ninjutsu would be easy for them to learn, Kakashi told Naruto. As far as I know, ought to know at least one fire elemental technique. I have no doubt that Itachi and Shisui have taught the team at least a few simple ones he could use in case he got attacked, Naruto told Kakashi. And as for Sakura-san, she has the potential to increase her physical strength. With the right set of training and diet, she'd be able to create a small crater with one punch in a year or two, Gaara added, and Naruto nodded. Just as they entered Ichiraku's, AM and her father greeted them with a bright smile. "Welcome, Naruto. And you brought guests. AM said happily. Hey AM-chan. Old man. These are Gara of Suna, Utakata and Yugura of Kiri. They're staying with me for a while, so expect to see them here with me from time to time. Naruto introduced the father and daughter to his companions who bowed politely. The father and daughter welcomed them and Kakashi and AM ushered them to the bar seats. Gara sat at the first with Utakata beside him, then Naruto, then Yugura, and finally Kakashi. Naruto and Gara had to sit with the two to make sure that both would behave. Kakashi sat next to Yugura who was holding on to his arm like a boy holding on to his dad. So, what will you be having, Naruto? The old man asked with a smile. I'll have my regular please. Gara will probably have the same as me. He said, and Utakata narrowed his eyes at the menu. I want to have ramen with dumplings on the side. He said and got a nod from the old man. I'll have your Yugura tired to pick, but it was a bit too hard. The menu sounded all good. How about you have ramen with a side of fried meat rolls like me? Kakashi suggested and got a nod from Yugura and smiled. Do ramen with fried meat rolls on the side for us. Kakashi told the man and got a chuckle. Alright. I'll be back in a few minutes with your orders. He said as he went out the kitchen and began to prepare the 3 different kinds of ramen that was ordered. While waiting, they could hear voices from the outside and the door opened to reveal Team 10 and Team Guy with the Jounins. Kakashi groaned as Guy called his name out loudly. Utakata and Yugura grabbed onto Naruto and stared in shock. Gara had moved to Naruto's side as well. The 3 still weren't used to Guy and Lee's antics, even if they had seen the pair the day before. Neji mentally slapped his forehead. Guy-sensei, please stop yelling. You're scaring the guests. Neji said as he moved to kiss Naruto and smiled at Utakata and Yugura. I'm sorry about him. He's always like that. But they're harmless, just loud. He added and got nods from the two who released Naruto and carefully sat back down on their seats, eyeing the green beast of Konoha carefully. Shikamaru moved next and kissed Naruto as well and smiled. We're on lunch break and Neji and I knew you'd be here. He said confidently, not bothering with the gasps from the others. Naruto sighed and knew they had to move from the bar seats and onto the tables with tatami mats. They did so and Naruto and Gara were sitting beside each other while Utakata was on Naruto's left and Yugura was on Gara's right. Kakashi had to sit next to Asuma and Guy, which aggravated the one-eyed Jounin so much, but he remained silent. Shikamaru sat next to Yugura while Neji sat next to Utakata. Choji, Ino, Lee, and Tenten were on the head of the 4 tables they joined together and wondered just what had happened a few minutes earlier. Naruto saw the looks and chuckled. Just so you know, both Neji and Shikamaru are in a relationship with me. Gara too. I've told you about what I am, right? They nodded. Well, aside from already being different, the thing I keep at bay have needs still that cannot be given by just one. That being said, these 3 currently provide me with the care, attention, and hugs that I need. Naruto said as he left out the fact that soon, his body would want more than just hugs. Ino and Tenten were blushing as they already knew that for now it was just hugs. They may be young, but they were girls, and they knew more than most boys their age when it came to other things. Well, as long as you're happy and that they don't hurt you, Naruto. Tenten said and Ino nodded. We will spare them no mercy if they ever make you cry. Ino added and Gara, Neji, and Shikamaru nodded. There was no way in hell they'd hurt Naruto. Well, we don't plan to, Ino. And if we ever do, we'd kill ourselves first thing if we hurt him in any way. Neji said seriously. Naruto couldn't help but smiled and chuckle. Thanks Ino. Tenten. Don't worry. They won't hurt me. I'll castrate them with a wooden spoon if they even think of cheating on me. Naruto said with a cheerful tone. All the males stiffened, especially Kakashi, Neji, Shikamaru, and Gara. Utakata and Yugura winced and placed their hands down to protect their treasure, even if the threat was not for them. The mere fact that they were males and the mention of castration was implied, they almost felt sorry for the 4 men. The key word there being almost. After the 2 teams ordered, they all talked about Team 7's first C-rank mission and their training tomorrow and the day after to prepare. Good thinking. Sasuke and Sakura would need it since who knows what will happen on the road. I heard from my dad that their first C-rank mission nearly ended in disaster, if not for the training they did before the mission began. Shikamaru shared and got nods from Ino and Choji. We heard about that story too. It turned out that my dad had been surrounded by 5 bandits, while Choji's and Shika's dad were having about 3 to 4 ninjas to face as well. Their sensei had been jumped by 6 men together just to take him down. Our dads managed to beat the bandits thanks to the taijutsu and ninjutsu training they forced their sensei to give them. Ino added and her teammates nodded. Gara and Naruto chuckled a bit as they turned to Kakashi, who was ignoring Guy and talked to Asuma. Well, we didn't actually force Kakashi-sensei. We suggested it and he thought it was a good idea. Naruto explained and the rest nodded in understanding. All the orders came and everyone began to eat. Lee began to share in a calm tone, thanks to Neji's glare, about their D-rank mission so far. It didn't surprise Naruto at all that the catching Tora mission was no longer amongst a list of D-rank missions. Even Team 10 were a bit confused why. Naruto then laughed lightly and the group turned to him. "What did you do, Naruto?" Gaara asked. "I didn't do anything really. After Gaara and I caught Tora as our first task of the D-rank missions we got, I glared at Tora and flashed my red Kyuubi eyes at it. I'm not surprised that the cat would make sure it doesn't get itself out again, lest her owner call for Genins to look for her," he said, and a second later, the whole group laughed, even Utakata and Yugura. Gaara had mentioned about the damn cat before they woke Naruto up that day. Even they couldn't blame the cat when Naruto glared the Kyuubi's eyes at it. "Oh Naruto. We should thank you for getting rid of that task from the D-rank mission list. You have no idea how much we hate that cat," Ino said as she sobered up from her laughter. The rest nodded. "That cat ruined one of my favorite shirts. I swear if it wasn't the daimyo's wife's cat, I would have used it as target practice for my weapons." Tenten swore and got nods from the rest. True, but Naruto couldn't help but sigh. "I do feel sorry for the cat though. I highly doubt the cat would escape as much as it does if the daimyo's wife wouldn't smother it too much," Naruto stated and got a few confused looks from the rest. Tora is a cat. They don't like to be carried or petted too much. They aren't dogs that require attention every minute of every hour. Cats are very independent and would just laze around as much as they could. They demand to be fed when they're hungry and be left alone. The only time they probably want to be fussed over is when they are to be groomed. Aside from that, they could care less if their owner is out most of the time," he explained, and slowly everyone nodded. "I forgot about that small fact," Neji admitted as he now began to see why Naruto felt a bit sorry for the creature. "Well, seeing how the cat looked every time one of you brings it back to her owner, her eyes were like begging for her to be killed instead." Chaoji spoke as he finished his bowl and ordered another. Then the topic moved from Tora to other things like Sasuke's duck-like hairstyle. "I swear, if you actually see past the hairstyle and the cold attitude, he's probably a nice person," Ino defended slightly. The boys laughed when Ino herself said that Sasuke had a duck hairstyle. Tenten had never been one of the fangirls of the Uchiha, so she laughed along with the boys. "I think it's because he cuts his hair with a kunai. When one does, it tends to uneven the hair when sliced. He should just get someone else to cut his hair with scissors so his hair won't look like a duck's butt anymore," Tenten commented and sent the boys into another wave of laughter. Even Utakata and Yugura had to laugh since they had seen the emo boy and his hairstyle. The lunch break was over and everyone left the ramen shop. Team 10 and Team Guy went back to finish their D-rank missions, and both Neji and Shikamaru promised to come by for dinner with something. When the two teams were gone, Kakashi, Naruto, Gaara, and the Kiri pair went to the apartment to place the groceries and look for Sasuke and Sakura. Utakata and Yugura chose to go with Kakashi to fetch Sakura since the man had a dog summon. Pakin instantly enjoyed the attention and ran for the two to catch him. Kakashi promised to keep the two safe. He had told Naruto and Gaara to meet up at Training Ground 7 since Naruto's favorite was booked by Kurenai for the day. Naruto and Gaara then proceeded to head over to the Uchiha compound and look for Sasuke. Both were talking about what would be best to teach Sasuke and Sakura when they bumped into someone who was coming out the compound. None of them were paying attention, and Naruto bumped into someone and was about to fall down when the said person had grabbed Naruto by the wrist and wrapped an arm around the blonde's waist to keep them both balanced. Gaara then saw it was Itachi and was smirking inside his mind but looked relieved outside. Naruto thought he'd fall and waited for the impact, but it didn't come. He slowly opened his eyes and found out that he was being held by Uchiha Itachi. Naruto blinked for a few moments before scrambling away and laughing nervously and rubbing the back of his head. Sorry about that, Itachi-san." Naruto apologized and bowed. "It's fine, Naruto-kun. I wasn't looking where I was going as well," he said as he waved the apology away. He turned to look at Gaara who was looking at him. "And you must be Sabaku no Gaara from Sunagakur. Sasuke has been sharing a few things about these last few days," Itachi said as he smirked. Both Gaara and Naruto knew that Itachi wanted to say that Sasuke had been complaining and whining, but they didn't need to be told. "Yes, this is Gaara. Gaara, this is Uchiha Itachi, Sasuke's older brother and the current head of the Uchiha clan," Naruto introduced with a smile. It was just then that Itachi saw how warm and nice Naruto's smile was. He had never really been close to the blonde, but he had always been intrigued. Why his clan hated him was something he couldn't understand since he knew the boy was very kind and caring to everyone even if they didn't deserve it at all. "So, what brings you both here?" Itachi asked politely and Naruto smiled. "Well, we came here to fetch Sasuke. Kakashi-sensei will be training us till the day we leave for our first C-rank mission. Sensei thinks it's best to learning a few taijutsu and ninjutsu moves just in case we need them," Naruto explained. "Well, your sensei is right. It would be best. Not that there would be something out there. Your sensei wants to be safe just in case something does go wrong," Itachi said as he opened the gate to the compound and led the two boys inside and towards the main house. As they made their way to the house, Itachi couldn't help but glance at Naruto from time to time. Without the orange monstrosity, Naruto looked very nice in black pants and a white shirt. Something so casual yet not totally inappropriate in public. While Naruto had no idea Itachi was looking at him, Gaara saw the glances and knew that soon, very soon, Naruto's beloved would be complete and then Naruto would be able to decide what he wanted to happen to the village. Would the blonde burn it down to the ground? Gaara was sure that along with the other Jinchurikis, the Jounins and Chuninins of the village had no match for them. But something told Gaara that the hidden village of Konoha would remain standing because Naruto wanted it so and nothing more. They finally reached the main house, and Naruto was a bit amused when he saw that the new house had been designed differently than the first. Well, it ought to have been expected. Who would want to stay in the same replica of a house that once burned down by enemy nins for revenge? Sasuke. Naruto-kun and Gaara-san are here for you. Itachi called out calmly and heard footsteps from the second floor. The boy they were looking for narrowed his eyes at them. "Why are you both here?" he asked with a tone. Itachi shook his head and knew that his younger brother had little to no manners when it came to other people. "I shall leave you now since I have to meet up with a few people," Itachi said and left the three. "Kakashi-san sent us to fetch you and tell you that we'll be having training this afternoon till the day before the C-rank mission. He thinks it would be a good idea to prepare and have you and Sakura learn a few taijutsu and ninjutsu moves to use in case something happens." Gaara explained with a monotone and stared at the raven-haired boy who just nodded. "Alright. Wait here while I change and we'll leave," he said as he then ran back upstairs to change. Naruto and Gaara smirked at each other and wondered what would happen later and for the next 2 more days. Sasuke came back not 10 minutes later and all three left the house and the compound, heading to the training ground Kakashi had told Naruto and Gaara earlier. All the while, none of the three saw the crow that was watching them as them walked to the training ground. Itachi wasn't stalking his brother. He was watching the blonde boy who had not only changed looks, but his whole personality had changed as well. Itachi had kept an eye on the walking ball of sunshine and had been surprised that since the arrival of the Sunanin, Naruto had been more happier and his smiles had been more genuine than before. He knew he'd find out sooner or later. Itachi was a patient man and if there was one thing he knew, that as long as he was patient and waited a bit, everything would come to him in due time. Shikamaru and Neji were leaving Naruto's apartment that night. Kakashi had vanished early to prepare for the morning since Team 7 would be leaving for their first C-rank mission. Both were walking in silence until Shikamaru come out and asked, "Say Neji, since when did you notice Naruto?" Neji turned to Shikamaru and smirked. "Just because I pretend to not give a care does not mean I do not see or notice what goes on around me. I had long before saw beyond the smiles and laughter he gave freely. I saw the bitter loneliness in his eyes. But things had changed. Just before we graduated. I saw it. There was a shift in Naruto that I saw that I don't think people saw. He slowly began to change. I don't know why it happened, but I can feel it that sooner or later Naruto will leave this village," Neji said and Shikamaru stopped walked. "And if he leaves?" Neji didn't even have to look at Shikamaru. "Then I will leave with him. My clan had disgusted me from the moment my father died. It grew even more when I found out what they did to Naruto. He doesn't deserve any hatred. He is a hero yet these people don't see it," Neji told Shikamaru who nodded. "Well, I'm glad to know that I won't have to kick your ass when Naruto leaves and you wish to stay behind. I'd probably kill you before we disappear to who knows where," Shikamaru said as he smirked. They had not gotten far when they saw Sakura walking towards the Uchiha compound. Both raised a brow and decided to follow. They had a feeling that they really needed to see what she was up to. And they were glad they followed. Just up ahead, Sasuke was there, waiting for her. "So, did everything go as planned?" he asked. "Of course, they all believe that I look at Naruto in a better light now. Tomorrow during our mission, I managed to find some guys who still have the nerve to make Naruto's life miserable. When we leave, they'll trash and probably burn his whole complex. When we get back, no one will ever think we planned it," Sakura said confidently. Neji and Shikamaru heard enough and left, running back to Naruto's apartment. Gaara opened the door and looked a bit confused. "We thought you both went home," he stated as he opened the door wider to let them in. Naruto came out of the bedroom, dressed for bed and looked as confused as Gaara. "Listen, we were on our way home when we saw Haruno walking towards the Uchiha compound. We had a nagging feeling so we followed. Haruno and Uchiha plan to have your place trashed and burned when you leave tomorrow. She has not changed at all and was only acting the whole time," Neji explained with anger rising in his voice. Naruto sighed as he crossed his arms. We know that from the start, Sakura had not been honest. She is far too infatuated with Sasuke to think of anything else. You don't have to worry though. We already made plans for her and Sasuke tomorrow," Naruto said with a cold tone that surprised Neji and Shikamaru. Gaara felt a strange surge ran throughout his body and turned to the two others. "You will leave if we leave?" he asked. Both turned to him and nodded. Where Naruto is, that is where we shall be as well. Neji answered. This village is far too troublesome now, so wherever Naruto goes, it'll be a better place than here. Shikamaru gave his answer and smirked. Naruto couldn't help but smile warmly at them. He was now glad that he returned and got a second chance. When the morning came, everyone was there for breakfast like how it had been since Kakashi, Neji, and Shikamaru made their intentions known and were accepted. Neji brought fresh bread and pitched in with Shikamaru to buy a big good luck cake for them on their first C-rank mission. Shikamaru also brought milk and juice, which Naruto made sure Utakata and Yugura drank the milk since the cake would give them enough sugar already. He didn't want to have them hyper and fall asleep by the afternoon. As they prepared to leave the apartment, Naruto made and placed protective seals on his complex. The whole place was fireproof. And whoever went anywhere near his apartment would be electrocuted so bad. Even those who would attempt to throw rocks to break the window, the rocks would bounce back and hit the one who threw it 10 times as hard. Neji and Shikamaru felt relieved now. They all walked to the village gates where Sasuke, Sakura, Itachi, and Shisui were waiting. We hope you don't mind. We'll be walking with you since we've heading to a village in Wave as well. Shisui greeted the one-eyed Jounin who nodded. Good morning, Naruto-kun, Gaara-san. Itachi greeted and Naruto smiled warmly at him. Good morning to you too, Itachi-san. Shisui-san. These are Utakata and Yugura from Kiri. They're staying with me for a while and will be coming along as well. Naruto said as he introduced Itachi to the Kiri pair, who smiled and waved before jumped on Kakashi, who sulked a bit. Sakura greeted them all with her smile and they greeted her back. Neither her or Sasuke noticed that Naruto, Gaara, Utakata, Yugura, Neji, Shikamaru, and Kakashi eyed her when she turned to face Sasuke, who turned to look at his brother. But the final hug, Naruto managed to tell Neji and Shikamaru a secret before they left the gates of the village. Don't be surprised, but in 3 days' time, the Haruno couple will be brutally murdered and their home burned to ashes. Neji and Shikamaru blinked for a bit before smirking. We'll make sure to take pictures then. Neji told Naruto, who had chuckled. It surprised Naruto how easy the two of them were able to accept the fact that while they would be physically gone from the village, the Haruno couple would be killed by Naruto somehow, and they just smiled and nodded like it wasn't something out of the ordinary. However, after a while, Naruto came to realize that maybe, just maybe, they really would leave everything just to be with him. It felt for Naruto to have people that would leave everything if he would ask. I told you, remember? You deserve this, kid. This and more. There are many who would want to make you happy. The last time, things didn't go so well because many tried to stop you from that happiness. Well, this time, no one will dare and you will be happy if it's the last thing I do. Kyuubi vowed and Naruto smiled at him. Thank you. Was all Naruto said before he felt someone's hand slip and hold his. He turned and saw Gaara give him a smile. Then a few hours after, and as Naruto remembered it, the puddle that they had passed by the first time had been there. Utakata and Yugura had been told about the demon brothers already and were ready. Even if Itachi and Shisui were there, Naruto didn't care if they saw him turn into a cold-blooded person who would order instant death to anyone. Gaara then prepared himself and to protect Naruto, while the blonde's aura turned cold. Utakata. Yugura. Make sure they are dead and beyond recognition. Naruto ordered. Hi, Naruto-sama. Both said seriously, bowed and moved back to take care of some pests. The 3 Jounins, 2 Chuninins, and the civilian wondered what Naruto meant until the demon brothers appeared. Gaara had been ready to make sure Naruto was kept safe. Kakashi and Itachi were strong enough to keep themselves unharmed. Same with Shisui, who then turned to the 2 Jounins and the civilian. Protect the civilian. Kakashi ordered and both nodded, taking out a kunai each, but Naruto snorted. No need. Those demon brothers won't live long enough. Gaara informed Kakashi. Utakata. Yugura. Do not delay and end it immediately. The sooner we move forward, the sooner we can get the client home and return home as well. Naruto ordered coldly, which made Sasuke, Sakura, Shisui, Kakashi, and Itachi stare at the calm blonde. The Kiri pair had indeed do as they were told and had the demon brothers in pieces 5 minutes after they arrived. Gaara then crushed the pieces with his sand before they moved once more. Naruto checked the Kiri pair if they got hurt and both shook their heads and said they were fine. Then both proceeded to change back to their childlike personas and run ahead and laugh. Naruto and Gaara smiled at the two and followed. Itachi was in shock. The calm and smiling blonde had ordered his Kirin friends to kill the demon brothers without remorse. This made Itachi begin to think if Naruto was anything but innocent. Not that how he slowly felt for the blonde changed. It made Itachi somewhat relieved that Naruto was not the kind who would back down when death knocked on his door. Shisui was amused while the 2 Jounins were shivering in fright. They had never seen Naruto so cold before. It was a whole new side to him that they thought never existed. To have seen and heard Naruto order the enemy to be killed and crushed completely was making them think twice if their plans against the blonde would even work at all. Azuna-san, would you kindly explain to us why a bridge builder like you would be followed by the demon brothers no less? If it weren't for the Kiri ninjas, we would have had a minor setback, and no doubt the Genins would probably have been injured. Itachi and Shisui technically aren't part of this mission, and even if they are around, I highly doubt things would have gone so smoothly. Kakashi started to interrogate Tazuna, who did not even hesitate to tell them the whole story. Naruto was amused as well as Gaara and the Kiri pair. They were looking forward to meeting Zabuza and Haku because Naruto would confront them on his own and in front of the others. The Kiri pair and Gaara would make sure that Haku would be trapped and Naruto would use that to his advantage. I vote we continue. We've come this far anyway. Besides, this Gato person doesn't seem like my kind of man. Who knows, we might just deal with him and make everything better. Naruto said with a smile that clearly said he knew something the rest didn't. Kakashi smirked and chuckled. Sasuke and Sakura also voted the mission to be continued, even if it now turned from a C rank to an A rank mission. Itachi and Shisui had agreed to help a bit since they still had time to spare. Upon agreement, the group moved forward and reached Tazuna's home faster than they first time, since none of them were injured and the fight didn't last so long. Tazuna's daughter had fussed on her father for a few minutes before properly greeting the guests. However, when it came to the discussion of who slept where, things got a bit problematic. It's fine. I'll share with Kakashi-sensei, Gaara, Utakata, and Yugura. If Itachi-san and Shisui-san will be staying, they can room with Sasuke. I'm sure Tsuyumi-san won't mind having Sakura with her since she can't possibly stay with the boys. Naruto suggested with a cheerful smile, and everyone found themselves nodding. Wonderful. Now it's getting late and we all deserve a good night's rest. We all can resume discussions in the morning. Naruto said as he stood up and Tsuyumi pointed to the room where Naruto and the other four would be staying. Good thing that Naruto agreed with Gaara when the redhead suggested they bring futons. They had moved the bed to the room where Sasuke was sleeping with his brother and cousin instead. Tsuyumi had swept the floor before Gaara used his sand to make sure that there were no dusts left, and Naruto pulled out the futons from the storage scrolls they had brought. Gaara and Kakashi had ushered Utakata and Yugura to shower first while they readied the futons. As expected, Naruto was in the middle. Gaara and Kakashi took the edges, and Utakata was on Naruto's left, and Yugura took the right side. After the three showered and ready for bed, Gaara turned the lights off, and they all took a well-deserved sleep. When morning came, Naruto was buried in arms and legs. He could barely move, and when he opened his eyes, the Kiri pair were wrapped around him in a cocoon-like manner. He looked around and saw that Gaara was waking up. "Gaara, can you please get these two off me? I can't breathe really well right now," he whispered to make sure they don't startle. Gaara chuckled when he saw the three and slowly moved Utakata first, then Yugura. When Naruto got free, he slowly moved to wake Kakashi up as well. The other two needed to sleep since they were running around all morning and afternoon the day prior. Gaara said that he'd go see if there was anything he could help with the breakfast. Naruto nodded and asked Kakashi if he wanted to shower first or breakfast. The next thing that happened, which amused Gaara as he left the bedroom, Kakashi carried Naruto to the bathroom and they showered together. "This is the first time I can have you all to myself without anyone else butting in. So I'm making the most of it," he said as he pulled down his mask and revealed to Naruto the Kakashi behind the mask. Naruto was not surprised at all. He already had seen Kakashi without the mask during his first life. He cupped Kakashi's cheek and smiled warmly at him before claiming the Jounin's lips with his own. Yes, Naruto was currently 12, but that didn't mean he had to act like he was 1. Because truth be told, Naruto was technically about 26. He was 20 before he traveled back to the past, and he was 6 when he came. It had been 6 years since he arrived and now, he could finally be a bit more free. Naruto had made himself taller thanks to Kyuubi's chakra. So he would more or less look like a 14-15-year-old. But at the moment, age wasn't his problem. Kakashi had wrapped his arms around Naruto's waist and held the blonde close to deepen the kiss. Naruto couldn't help but moan as Kakashi's tongue attacked Naruto's mouth. The blonde didn't even resist when Kakashi demanded entrance. Naruto just opened his open, and Kakashi had him on the edge of his toes. Had Naruto known that this was how Kakashi was, he probably would have been more observant in his first life. But now is now and he had Kakashi with him now. But before things could even get any hotter, someone banged on the door of the bathroom. "You two better hurry up. I wanna pee." Yugura whined. Kakashi groaned while Naruto chuckled a bit before he kissed Kakashi once more, but not too long. "I'm sure we'd have more time soon," Naruto promised, and they both showered as quickly as they could. When the door opened, Yugura ran and didn't even care if Naruto and Kakashi were still standing by the door. He needed to pee very badly. And there was no way he would do it outside. Naruto and Kakashi got dressed, and the Jounin went down ahead to help and told Gaara he could shower now. Naruto woke up Utakata, who whined but sat up and rubbed his eyes sleepily. Yugura came out 5 minutes later and just in time Gaara came and the redhead showered instantly, while Utakata helped Naruto fold and keep the futons by the corner of the bedroom. 10 minutes later, Gaara came out and Utakata went in. The redhead smirked as he got dressed slowly for Naruto to watch. Yugura had gone down ahead to see what was to eat and play with Kakashi. Gaara had straddled Naruto, who smirked back. Had a good shower? Gaara teased Naruto, knowing well that Kakashi would not have just showered with Naruto. It was interesting. Too bad it got cut off. Naruto answered and chuckled as he pulled Gaara close and kissed him. They knew they had very little time since Utakata was probably near done and they had to head down to eat. So kissing was the only thing that they could do in such a short time. Besides, their bodies were only 12. It wasn't as impressive as it was when they were 20. So both were patient enough to wait just a bit. Gaara finished dressing and Naruto prepared Utakata's clothes just in time he came out of the bathroom. After a few more minutes, all three went down and saw that everyone was nearly there. Well, except Inari, Tazuna's grandson. Itachi and Shisui had ate quickly and bid everyone goodbye since they still had a mission to head off to. They did promise to stop by before heading back to Konoha just in case Team 7 was still there. When the two Jounins were gone, Inari came down and looked pissed. Naruto already knew what would happen next and had told Gaara, Utakata and Yugura to not speak to the child. You all should just leave. Inari yelled at them but he was ignored. Are you even listening to me? He yelled again. Sasuke and Sakura wondered what Naruto would do. Kakashi knew his blonde angel wouldn't harm the kid, so he was relaxed and paid no attention to what was happening. If you stay any longer, Gato will definitely kill you. He said, which Naruto finally moved and placed down his chopsticks. And you care if we live or die because? He asked, a bit colder than the norm. Inari stared at the blonde. You don't care if you die? He asked. Of course I care. But I am a shinobi of my village. This is my mission. And as a shinobi, I cannot abandon my task until it is done. However, I wonder why you're so concerned if we live or died. It's not you who have to go out there and fight, so why bother yelling at us and tell us to just leave? Your grandfather hired up to keep him safe till that bridge is done, and not a little ball of anger like you will keep me from doing what I was paid to do. Naruto told him. My father Inari started angrily but was cut off. Your father died defending this village from a tyrant. He died a hero. My father died as well. Defending my whole village full of ungrateful people. You don't hear me complaining. I lost my parents and I have no one except my friends. You still have your mother and grandfather. You wallowed in your misery and in the process, spat at the sacrifice your father had made to free your people from this tyrant. Now, tell me, which of us do you think deserves to be bitter? You who only lost a father? Or me who lost both my parents and shunned by my entire village? Naruto asked the boy with a cold stare and tone. Gaara, Utakata and Yugura finished their meals and all four stood up, told Sayumi that the meal was delicious, and left the house to play outside or train. Inari stared as the door closed. The blonde boy had just told him that he lost both his parents and his village hated him, and yet he still was a ninja of that village. Inari then looked down and began to think how right the older boy had been. His father had died to set them free, Gato was strong because he had so much money to pay for hired men to keep him safe. Sakura and Sasuke stared at the boy then at each other for a few minutes before finishing their meal and leaving the house as well. Kakashi waited for Tazuna to be done so he could escort the man to the bridge to see how far along the project was. When they got out, Naruto and the other three were already waiting for them. We hope you don't mind us coming along to see how far the bridge is, Tazuna-san. Gaara spoke politely and the old man shook his head. I don't mind at all. Come. He said and even Sasuke and Sakura went along. The bridge was indeed a sight to behold, yet it was only halfway through. The people were scared because of Gato, but Naruto already knew what to do about it. And as predicted, Zabuza came. I did not expect to see the infamous Hada Kakashi here of all places. Zabuza said as he smirked. Zabuza Momoichi, a rank missing nin. The current Mizukage has placed a bounty on your head. Kakashi greeted back. The famed demon then stopped when he saw Yugura and Utakata with Naruto and Gaara. Naruto-sama, was it a wise decision to not have tracked him down before? Utakata asked with a confused look which shocked Zabuza. Why track him down when sooner or later he'd appear on his own? Gaara, if you please. Naruto said with a smile as he then addressed Gaara who nodded. The next few seconds happened in a flash. Gaara had Haku wrapped in his sand and his arms separated and covered. Haku? Zabuza reacted instantly before turning to the group before. Naruto smirked and walked towards Haku who stared as Naruto's eyes flashed red. Such a beautiful boy he is, the last of his bloodline too. I have to doubt that if pardoned, he would be a welcomed ally. Do you know what will happen to you Zabuza when you finish your so-called task from Gato? Naruto asked as he leaned on the prison Haku was trapped on and everyone was looking at him. Gato has no plans to pay you at all. He'll have you killed and Haku won't be far behind. I do hate to see such a Kekai Jekai got to waste. My blood sings out to me that his bloodline since it knows that if Haku died, that would be the last time his bloodline will ever be seen again. Naruto said as he touched Haku's hair and smirked maliciously. Sasuke and Sakura along with Tazuna stared in shock. Naruto didn't look like he was joking or bluffing at all. "What do you want?" Zabuza asked, knowing well that the blonde was right. Every word was right. "I want many things really. But at the moment, I want you to drop your task that Gato had told you and come with me. With me, you and Haku will finally have a home. You won't have to do everything I say. I know you love your freedom. You can even travel if you want. But with me, I can provide you with anything and everything you would ever need," Naruto said as he turned to Gaara to release Haku. Naruto had moved back to stand with Gaara and the bored Kiri pair. Naruto promised that they would get to play. Not yet but soon. So for the time being, they were bored. "And if we refused?" Haku spoke up finally, even if it was only to ask a question. Naruto smiled sweetly. "Simple. If you refused, I'll kill you both. What's the use of keeping you both alive if you won't be of any use to me, right?" Naruto said as he slowly moved forward towards the pair, his eyes turning from blue to blood red. Zabuza pulled Haku behind him, protecting him from the blonde kid that was obviously not a normal one. "As long as you keep your end of the bargain you have a deal," Zabuza answered. Naruto smirked, grabbed Zabuza's arm and used Nen, tapping into his ability to become a Takishitsuke specialist. The slash symbol on Zabuza's hit I-8 slowly morphed into the clan seal of the Uzumakis from the Whirlpool country, which for some reason was also the symbols on the Jounin and Chunin vests. He had not gotten around to find out why the first time, but he wrote it down on his mental board to find out why. He did the same thing to Haku's, and both looked at each other with wide-eyed shock. "As long as you have those on, you will come to no minor harm. My energy and you hit I-8 will give you a shield of wind and water to protect you from minor attacks like shurikens and kunes. The shield will be there only to give you time to get ready for your enemy if you do not notice their presence. If your enemy uses any ninjutsu to trap you like how Gaara trapped Haku earlier, it will give you enough space to use at your advantage," Naruto explained as his eyes turned blue once more. The rest of the afternoon was spent watching Utakata and Yugura spar. Sasuke and Sakura were taught by Kakashi how to tree climb using only their feet. Sasuke had protested and asked why Naruto wasn't doing the exercise with him. Kakashi sighed and asked Naruto to show Sasuke and Sakura just why he didn't need to do the exercise with them. Naruto took it as a chance to show off and slowly walked up the tree with no effort. To piss the other two off further, he came down the tree using his hands. Like how one walked upside down, Naruto did the same and got the reaction he liked. "And how about walking on water then?" Sakura asked politely, trying to keep up with her pretense that she had changed. Naruto smiled kindly and did the same. To make Sasuke angrier, Naruto used wind and the water, freezing the area of the water on the beach and surfed a little bit before the ice crumbled and he was back on land. Sakura pretended to be amazed, but knew well she was far from how she looked. When Naruto sat back down, Gaara reminded him that tomorrow would be the day he had told Neji and Shikamaru that Sakura's parents would die. Tomorrow, Gato and his men would die as well. "I promised Utakata and Yugura they could play, so I'll give them the hired hands to occupy themselves with," while Naruto was cut off by Gaara. "I'll handle Gato. You need not to soil your hands on his filthy blood." Naruto smiled as he placed a kiss on Gaara's forehead. No one else was there but them and the Kiri pair, so it was fine. "Only because I know you're bored as well. I had my fun today with Zabuza," Naruto told Gaara, who smiled a bit before turning to the two that had stopped sparring but were now running around with their summons, mini versions of their Bijuus. Utakata's slug was as big as Gaara's gourd, the same with Yugura's turtle who he had taken to the beach to get wet. Gaara and Naruto stood up, knowing well that Yugura being wet would be a hassle later on. And they were right. It took nearly an hour for Naruto and Gaara to convince Yugura to come back to the house now and have dinner. The turtle Jinchuriki had played in the water with his Biju for the last 3 hours now. Kakashi then stepped in and promised Yugura a piggyback ride to the house if he obeyed. It amazed Naruto, Gaara and Utakata that it worked. They sighed and followed the two back to the house where the rest were waiting for them. Later that night, as they all got ready for bed, Naruto had opened the window to let a cool night breeze lull them to sleep. He knew well that tomorrow would be a very interesting and eventful day. At the crack of dawn, both Neji and Shikamaru had gotten up early to see Naruto's promise of the Haruno couple's deaths. They were both sitting on the branches of tall trees a few blocks from the Haruno residence. Then Neji signaled Shikamaru that he could feel a strange chakra signature approaching the house. 3 masked figures, all covered in black, had entered the house by the second-floor window, and a few minutes later, a cold scream was heard for 3 seconds before it died. Then the dark figures came out of the house, timber poles had appeared from the ground, and the dead bodies of the Haruno couple were tied to the poles. The bodies were slashed and mutilated that if not for Haruno Satsuko's pink hair, it would have taken a while to know who they were. The last act that the 3 dark figures did was they set the Haruno house on fire. And as promised, Neji took a few pictures for Naruto. Shikamaru watched in amusement as the villagers and some Jounins and Chuninins arrived to stop the flames. However, the flames, no matter how much water was being thrown into it, it didn't die down. Everyone had to watch as the flames ate the house until nothing was left. And when there was nothing but ash, the flames disappeared. Wow, I don't know how Naruto managed that, but I want to learn it. Shikamaru said as he wolf whistled in appreciation. Neji nodded and both returned to their homes to prepare for the day of more D-rank missions. But both were very much pleased and hoped that Naruto would return home soon so they could shower him with love and praises for his deed. As the morning sun came through the window, Naruto woke up first with a big smile on his face. He showered first before waking up the others. He woke Kakashi up then Gaara. Both took turns showering and when they were done, Gaara and Naruto took care of Utakata and Yugura, waking them up gently. "Come on you two, I thought you wanted to play today," Naruto asked and both bolted up instantly. Utakata managed to get to the bathroom first while Yugura got tangled in his futon. "There is no need to rush. They will come here on their own. And I will leave them to you both to take care of. You will wait until I give you my go, alright?" Naruto told Yugura, who nodded and waited patiently for Utakata to finish. 10 minutes later, Utakata came out and Yugura went to shower. Naruto told him the same thing he told Yugura and got an obedient nod. From an outsider's point of view, it would have been a strange sight if they saw someone like Utakata being spoken to like a child by someone who obviously looked younger. But Utakata knew that it wasn't by age. The power Naruto held was beyond him and obeying was the other option really. Not that he didn't like it. He did. Naruto was kind to him and Yugura and everyone else. He gave them a second chance to have better lives and so far, they all have had better lives. And it was all because of Naruto. Utakata would follow him to the depth of hell if needed be. As long as he was with Naruto, he knew he'd be alright. The morning meal was fleeting and the two Kirinins were too excited. Both ate their food as fast as they could, which got them scolded by Gaara. Both then tried to slow down as much as they could and eventually everyone was done. They had then gone off to the bridge once more to make sure everything would go smoothly. Aku and Zabuza were instructed by Naruto to camp out just outside Konoha and wait for them to return. He also instructed them to make sure no one would see them or even know they were there. Beto had already been pissed since Zabuza had not returned. Not that it mattered since he wasn't even planning to pay the missing nin a cent. But the fact that the damn ninja just disappeared made him angry. The bridge was being started once more and Geto had one last thread to pull. He had called all the hired hands and ninjas he had and made their way to the bridge. When they got there, Naruto and the others were there as well. Sasuke and Sakura were getting ready but knew they probably wouldn't stand a chance, but they would fight. "You had your chance, Tazuna. I'm gonna make sure that this bridge won't reach where it needs to be. If only that Zabuza didn't die or something, you'd probably be dead by now." Geto mocked. Tazuna, Sayumi, Inari, and the rest of the villagers were there. "Oh no, Zabuza didn't die. He just dropped your task for a better offer. Who would want to work for a man who doesn't even plan on paying in the end? A man like you, only a waste of space deserves to be finished," Naruto said with a smile. "Shut up brat. As if you could even harm me," Geto said and Naruto turned to his Kiri pair. "Enjoy and have fun you two. However, if you both got those filthy blood on your clothes, you're washing them on your own," Naruto told them and both smiled. Yugura cheered and in a split second both disappeared and screams were heard from the center of Geto's men. "Come and play with us," Utakata said as he brought out his flute and their games began. The rest watched in horror as Geto's hired men were being killed right before their very eyes. Geto then started to freak out. He was about to run, but Gaara-san caught him and dragged him in front of Naruto. "Please. Please. Don't kill me. I'll give you money. Anything you want. Just please don't kill me." The fat bastard began to beg as he heard more screams from the men behind him. The sand holding him was slowly squeezing him tight. "Why should I show you mercy? You didn't show these people any. You even killed many of them just so you'd get rich. Didn't you know? Money that appears in an instant disappears in the next blink of an eye. This applies for you truly," Naruto said as he laughed a bit, seeing the fear in Geto's eyes. "Are you really that afraid to die? Wouldn't you want to die by ninjas rather than these people who would probably torture you before they kill you for your crimes against them?" Naruto was interrupted by Utakata and Yugura. "Naruto-sama. We're done." Yugura cheered happily. "And see? We didn't get dirtied at all," Utakata said proudly. "And because of that, when we get back home, we'll buy the cake you love, how's that?" Naruto asked and got happy cheers. He then turned his attention back to Geto. "Well, now that it's over, I bid you Geto, a long farewell. May your soul not end up in hell though. You'll be tortured there for sure," Naruto said as he moved back and Gaara's sand covered Geto. "Tsubaku Kaiu," he whispered and the desert coffin technique took Geto's life instantly. It took a few minutes before the villagers began to cheer for Naruto and his friends. They were finally free of the tyrant. The villagers then ran to ransack Geto's home and took everything that belonged to them. All the money they found were then used to speed the process of the bridge. Kakashi had been impressed and had told Naruto that they would talk when they got back to Konoha. Naruto nodded and smiled. Sasuke and Sakura however were now more worried that maybe angering Naruto wouldn't be the best idea. Itachi and Shisui had arrived the next day and just in time since Team 7 had finished what they were sent to do and was heading back to Konoha. Sasuke and Sakura had been very quiet as they traveled back to Konoha. They had thought that their plans had gone smoothly, but now feared that if Naruto found out it was them that had planned to burn his apartment, they would not be let off so easily. Kakashi had then told Itachi and Shisui what had happened with Naruto's permission to mention a few deals that involved Naruto. To say the least, Itachi was more captivated now by his mysterious blonde. Naruto's smile was dangerous. Because behind the smiles and laughter held a very dangerous and manipulative being that got high praises from Kakashi. Shisui was speaking with Gaara about the components of his sand and how they move on their own, while Itachi had taken to walking and talking beside Naruto, asking him questions like how he managed to convince an AR rank missing nin to side with him, how he was able to control his elements, and what he'd do when the Hokage and the council would summon him for questioning. Naruto smiled and answered amused Itachi. I highly doubt they would want to anger the vessel of the Kyuubi. If they did, all the rest of the Jinchurikis would not be so nice when they visit. Naruto told him and chuckled. He had been given hints by Naruto himself that he had control over the other Jinchurikis and if the Konoha council harmed him, Konoha would be wiped from the face of the world. Well, I do hope I hear you answer them when you're summoned. I'd enjoy how they'd shake in fear now that their days of hurting you are over. He told Naruto with a solid voice which surprised Naruto in a good way. When they got to Konoha, with Zabuza and Haku, the Chuninins at the gate had told them all to proceed to the Hokage's office immediately. They did so and both Zabuza and Haku were placed under Naruto's watch instantly by the Hokage after Kakashi told him what had happened. Naruto then told the Hokage that he would be moving to the Namikaze compound since his apartment wouldn't house 6 ninjas. Sarutobi smirked and nodded. Finally. Your blood will allow you and those who you allow into the compound. If you need any repairs come to me and I'll see what I can do. Naruto nodded and smiled. Now, 3 days after you left, enemy nins had entered Konoha somehow and had killed 2 civilian villagers who were members of the civilian court. We don't know if they are the same ones that had killed the Uchiha clan and the ones who tried to kidnap Naruto and Sasuke, but we have a strong feeling that they are all connected somehow. Sarutobi began and dread started to creep into Sakura's body. Who were killed, Hokage-sama? Shisui asked and the old man sighed heavily. Sakura, I am sorry. But your parents were both murdered and your home was burned to the ground. We found their bodies greatly mutilated and tied to poles just outside your home. Parts of the bodies were burned from the fire, but their deaths were caused by extreme blood loss and their internal organs were crushed. Parts were sliced and some were even taken out and were on the ground. They were very much dead when we arrived. Sakura had froze, paled, and slowly fell to the floor. Her parents were dead. She was now alone. Sakura felt like she was about to pass out. But just before she lose consciousness, she saw a small smirk from Naruto's lips before the darkness came over her. This was her karma and her parents paid for her actions. Upon hearing the death of her parents, Sakura just realized that while she was away, it was her who had lost everything. The plan was for Naruto to lose his apartment and everything he owned, not her. But this was what had happened and there was nothing else she could do. She was still grieving and as she turned to look at Sasuke, her accomplice had looked away, trying to pretend that he didn't know the reason why Sakura suddenly became an orphan. However, before anyone could speak, Naruto spoke up first. Hokage-jiji. I know that this would not be the best time, but I can offer Sakura-chan a temporary place in our home. I'm sure the main house is big enough for all of us. As her teammate, I don't want her to stay in some place that won't have what she might need. If necessary, I can provide her with a few simple things to get her back on her feet. Naruto said with a sincere voice that only a handful knew was totally fake. Sakura's eyes widened in shock. Naruto was offering her a place in his home. She didn't even know he had one. And the blonde even said he'd provide for her. She had to weigh out her options. She knew that she didn't have a home and that she couldn't even cook. So having an apartment would not be something she saw herself have. Sakura also doubted that Ino would let her stay for a while. Both have been rivals for Sasuke's affections, so it was out. Sasuke wouldn't even look at her. It hurt her so much. If you are sure Naruto, I don't mind. I'm sure that it won't take long to liquidate the Haruno account and see if how much her parents had given her. A week at most would be the longest, so if it is alright with her, I don't mind. The Hokage said and everyone turned to Sakura to hear what she had to say. Sakura swallowed hard and nodded. I don't mind, Hokage-sama. I am grateful that Naruto-kun would even offer me a temporary home. It was no secret that he and I weren't the closest friends, but I shall accept his offer. Just until I can get back on my feet. She answered bravely. She knew that with Naruto providing for what she needed, she wouldn't have to spend a lot for a while. Yes, accepting Naruto's offering was a good choice at the moment. Or so it would seem. No one saw the brief smirk that graced the faces of the Jinchurikis for a second before they turned into smiles. At the while the talk about Sakura's sudden situation, Sasuke's mind was turning a complete 360. He knew something was wrong with the whole situation, but he couldn't tell what. He remembered that it was supposed to be the dope who would return to with the horrible welcoming news. But here they were and it was Sakura who had done the welcoming instead. He couldn't even look at her. Because if he did, the rest would know that something else was up and he couldn't afford to be caught in a huge mess at the moment. Sasuke knew that his brother and cousin would not like it at all. When the dobe had offered to house Sakura, hundreds of alarms went off in Sasuke's mind. But again, he couldn't tell why. It was frustrating, but he had to deal with it since there was no other way. They all just had to live with it. As the four Jinchuriki, two Yuzu survivor nins, Niji, Shikamaru, and a now orphan girl, made their way to Namika's compound, Sakura had not even sensed that something was terribly wrong. Kakashi had to stay and report to the Hokage and go into detail about the mission and what had happened. Naruto bit his thumb and smeared some of his blood on the steel seal on the front gates, and they opened. He smirked as he ushered everyone inside and closed the gates himself before proceeding straight to the main house. Yugura and Utakata were already excited and it had not taken long to pack Naruto's things and seal them in storage scrolls. The moving had only lasted half an hour and now they were here. The main house was huge. According to Niji, it was even larger than the Hyuga and Uchiha main houses. Everyone entered the house after Naruto and everyone was stunned to see that the house was well preserved. It was Haku who had noticed the seals on the walls, floor, stairs, and windows. No wonder everything seems like it's all new. Naruto commented and chuckled. He then turned to see a map on the wall near the stairs appear. It registered who were there and even Niji and Shikamaru had rooms in the house. However, it was the Kiri pair who cheered and looked at the map for a few moments before running up to see their new accommodations. Naruto chuckled along with Zabuza and Haku. Gaara and Niji smiled a bit while Shikamaru sighed and shook his head. Alright, everyone go and see your rooms. Sakura-chan, may I have a word with you for a moment? I think we can use the library for now. Naruto said as he glanced at the map and walked to where the library was located. Sakura obediently followed while the others smirked sans Zabuza and Haku. Alright, I think we're missing something here. Zabuza said as the pair had left already. You're right. Sakura will be in for one memorable stay. Gaara commented as he then moved to head up the stairs and prepare Naruto's things and clothes for a shower and rest. They all had a very tiring travel back. What did Gaara-san mean? Haku asked politely as he turned to Niji and Shikamaru who had sighed. You see, Sakura and Sasuke had planned to have Naruto's apartment burn on the third day of their C-rank turned A-rank mission. Sakura had found some thugs who hated Naruto and agreed to help her. Niji and I overheard her telling Sasuke about it and we told Naruto who already knew that Sasuke and Sakura were being backstabbers. Don't ask me how Naruto managed to do what he did, but he not only mutilated the Haruno couple but also burned their house and had not left a trace for the Anbu themselves to find. Shikamaru told them and both older nins were in shock. Who would have thought that an innocent-looking angel like Naruto would be so cold, cruel, and vicious? Well, Zabuza and Haku were now certainly sure that the deal with Naruto was a good one. Better an ally and a master than an enemy. When Naruto and Sakura entered the library, he had ushered her to take a seat on one of the armchairs and he was sitting on across her. However, it took a few seconds for Sakura to realize that as soon as she had sat down, she couldn't move at all. Her eyes were now showing signs of fear and her body began to tremble. Well, Sakura-chan, first off, I'm sorry for your loss. It must be hard losing your parents when the original plan was for my home to be burned, not yours. Naruto began and Sakura's eyes widened in shock which made him chuckle. You really didn't think I wouldn't know? That you and Sasuke were the ones trying to sabotage me? Did you really think that you'd get the upper hand? I must say that you both are completely delusional if you thought such. Naruto taunted her. You see, Sakura-chan, I don't like liars. I don't like people who double-cross others. I despise it more when people double-cross me. Now, you are officially under my care for the whole week. And as clan head of both the Namikas and Uzumaki here in Konoha, I had rights to have you and that emo you love so much executed. You know I am the Yondame's son, right? He asked her and she nodded slowly. Well, not only did you both attempt to harm the Yondame's son, you also attempted to bring harm to a clan head of two houses and a relative to the wife of the Shadame Hokage. She was in Uzumaki like my mother. You also attempted to harm the last possible remaining heir to the land of whirlpools in Wave Country, which reminds me. Thanks to a few minor setbacks, we weren't able to visit the ruins of the country that my ancestors ruled. He pouted a bit but then smiled. Well, no matter. I'm sure I'll have time to visiting them soon. Back to you. With all the lineage that I represent, you and Sasuke would probably have been given the most horrible death sentence ever. You'd both be tortured till the last breath you both take, and not even the civilian council members could do anything. I have witnesses that you and Sasuke planned against my person. Which I have to make a note to get rid of a few council rats, and I'll save Danzo for last. Naruto said as he strayed off again. You won't be able to tell anyone about what I just told you, no. You know why? He asked her with a malicious smile as he stood up and walked towards here. Sakura was now crying as she slowly shook her head. Well, as much as she could, that is. Well, since you don't know, I'll tell you. You won't be able to tell anyone even after you leave this house, since you now owe me a life debt. As a fellow shinobi, you owe me your life now since I took you in after your family's demise. And until I release you from that debt, you will never be able to tell anyone no matter what the way. Even if Ino tried to get into your mind, this information won't appear at all. All memories of this encounter will only be visible to you, me, and the walls of these home. Naruto answered her and Sakura knew right then and there that she was cornered and screwed. With a few hand seals, Naruto pressed his palm on her stomach and pushed his chakra forward. Sakura whimpered at the pain that she felt, but there was nothing she could do. Everything he had said were true. And she was beginning to realize that even if Naruto could release her, why would he do so? And what was worse was she very well knew that there was no way out for her, since Sasuke wouldn't lift a finger to help her. And oh, one more thing. Naruto said as he smirked. Sakura turned to him and wondered what else could he have to say. The death of your parents is your punishment for betraying me. They would have been spared even if your father was against me, along with the rest of the civilian council members. Remember. I easily killed your parents and I had been within your sight the whole time. If I can do that, imagine what else I can do to you. He told her softly and smiled. Naruto released Sakura from the hold of her chair and led her out the library, to the second floor, and to her bedroom which was at the farthest end of the second floor. It was the smallest too. But she didn't know that the others had bigger and better rooms. But she wasn't complaining. No. She was still trying to get over the fact that her parents had died because of her decisions, and Naruto had managed to not only kill and burn everything, but he also managed to have stayed where everyone could see him. Konoha was 3 days away from Wave Country, so there was no way that he killed them himself. But Sakura knew no matter how much she tried to think of how he did it, her parents were permanently gone, and she was alone. So now alone in her bedroom, she cried herself to sleep, pondering at the fact that because she and Sasuke decided to make Naruto's life miserable, she had lost what was important to her. Then she thought, Naruto knew that it wasn't just her. Then again, Sasuke already lost his clan except for 2 others. She doubted that Naruto would kill them off. No, of course not. Itachi and Shisui would be valuable to Naruto in the long run. They had advanced bloodlines while she didn't. This thought made her sob harder as she knew that Naruto would not let her go so easily. He'd torture her for sure and make sure that she thoroughly suffered before ending her misery. Or who knew? She might just off herself if she couldn't take it anymore. A knock on her door made her sit up and walk to open the door. It surprised her to see Gaara there with a pile of clothes. Despite being a traitor to Naruto, you will be cared for until you leave. These are clothes that I was able to find in Naruto's master bedroom. They probably belonged to his mother. He told me to give them to you. As you are a temporary charge of Naruto, you shall be wearing his clan symbol and be expected to behave accordingly. You will show respect for Naruto as clan head and your superior. You will do as you are told and you will be safe. He told her with a cold tone. Sakura accepted the pile of clothes respectfully and nodded her thanks. Dinner will be in 2 hours. Be wise enough to come down by that time. If you plan to go out and someone else is here, you are to tell them that you would be going out and inform them if you would be having your meals here with the rest or not. He added before he turned to leave her. Naruto Sakura was starting to break and it was not long before she'd crumble into pieces. In the master bedroom, Gaara saw Neji and Shikamaru conversing on the couch while hearing water running from the bathroom. He saw that there were clothes on the bed ready for Naruto and thought best to just sit and wait. So, how was she? Neji asked Gaara as the redhead joined them. She looked well enough and had resigned to her situation. I warned her that if she failed to obey the rules, she would be facing consequences. Gaara summarized everything he told the girl in one sentence and got nods from the other 2. It would be too troublesome if she would cause trouble. But Naruto explained that he placed a life debt seal on her, enabling her to say anything else until she was released. Shikamaru said. If she'd be released. Neji commented with a smirk. The other 2 smirked back and nodded. Then they heard the water stopped and all 3 turned to see Naruto covered in nothing but a towel. His blonde hair were still dripping wet, which made the watchers hold their breaths. Despite being 12, Naruto had a very toned and perfect tanned skin. His toned stomach showed the seal that kept the Kyuubi at bay. All 3 couldn't help but stare, Gaara especially. The old Naruto was not as well defined as the one in front of him. But it was given since this was their second chance and everything, and Naruto had to work with the Kyuubi to change his body in a short amount of time.